Chapter 81. Unleash the Unrivaled. Question. How many insects are there generally inside an insect nest? According to estimates, an ant nest typically has about 500 to 2,000 ants, and it is very common for larger ones to have tens of thousands. And the insect nest before us, the insect queen is swollen like a small hill, and under the priest's power, she is rapidly breeding, and the outcome is almost breaking free. In short, the number is quite astonishing. At this moment, the audience is staring in disbelief at the aftermath of that thunderous explosion. I just seemed to see a little mushroom cloud. The large amount of residual smoke engulfed the entire insect nest land, including Su Chi, who himself was swallowed up by it, and the shockwave even overturned other abnormalities nearby. You can imagine the terrifying power. Boom! At this moment, the land of strange tales shakes violently with a frenzy of mud and mire boiling over, unleashing an indiscriminate attack that swallows all the abnormalities around it. A monstrous mud abnormality boss over 10 meters tall is born. It lets out a world-shaking roar, its hands pounding heavily on the ground, making the whole earth tremble. Nancy looked towards the land of strange tales. It seems the deafening sound of the explosion has clearly crossed the toleration limit of this pollution source. It wants to kill the troublemaker who broke the rules of this place. Meanwhile, the little cat is presently overwhelmed by a mass of monsters. Brother Hai Xing is being torn apart by various abnormalities, unable to struggle, yet still protecting the conch, angrily saying, "Hey, don't snatch my conch." The gambler and clown, having added another boss to their list, are not too relieved, and they stare fixedly at the dissipating smoke and dust. The clown uneasily nudges the gambler. "That guy, he's dead. Definitely dead." The gambler mutters, "Not sure, but this move obviously kills the enemy at the cost of significant damage to oneself. There's a high probability of mutual destruction with the insect nest. Then he's definitely gone." And Nancy watches in silence up front. "You two better not jinx it. Forget it. It's too late now." And the next moment, Su Chi's figure slowly emerges from the smoke and dust. He pats the dust off himself, looks towards the countless monsters in the crowd, and softly recites. "There are mountains higher than mountains, skies wider than the sky. I stand tall, my voice echoes in the wind, seeking a worthy opponent to duel with. The loneliness of lofty heights." "What the hell are you even talking about?" The clown roars in anger. Su Chi shakes his head. "You don't understand this?" He looks at his own 5-figure strength and movement technique. "What I mean is," he smiles, "next up, we're going unrivaled." "We?" Nancy is startled. At the fall of the words, boom! The overwhelmed cat explodes, casting off all monsters, transforming into a massive tentacle monster. Its shrieks deafening, with sharp teeth crowning each tentacle, wreaking havoc and slaughtering rampantly. Brother Hai Xing is also unhappy. "Snatch my conch! I'm angry now." His body convulses up and down, his limbs inflating crazily as if pumped with water. His entire body expands to 100 meters, casting a shadow like a dark cloud above the whole floating land. At the center is an abyssal, deep maw. A large number of monsters are caught by powerful suction, densely drawn into it. The spectators are stunned by this sight. Several people in the VIP seats are even more silent. They look towards the priest. The priest, although still expressionless, noticeably, his eyelids quiver slightly. It's clear that not even he anticipated such a turn of events. And the boss of the land of strange tales is already roaring as it charges towards Su Chi. Each step shakes the ground. Its giant palms stir up gales that rush at one's face. "Cheer up, big brother of the strange tales." The clown and the gambler are already screaming in their hearts. And Su Chi, looking on with interest at this boss, turns on the speaker, humming the tune of Sound of the Past's invigorating little song. His figure vanishes from the spot, like a rainbow of light bursting at the fingertips. The entire giant body of the Strange Tales boss is penetrated through with a massive hole. The clown and the gambler stare blankly at this scene. The clown slowly comes to his senses, quietly nudges Gambler. Suddenly, I remembered. I'm not from here. Gambler roars, "Hey!" just as he's about to scold this turncoat. His words die on his lips, because Suchi's figure has already appeared in front of the two of them, looking at them with a smile. The clown trembles all over, quickly giving a forced laugh. "Brother, you know me. I came here as a spy. I never had a double heart. Brother." Suchi squinted his eyes. The clown trembled, cautiously saying, "Big brother." Racking his brains, the clown suddenly had a revelation, his eyes lighting up. "Sect hierarch." Bang! The clown was directly smacked to the ground. Suchi shook his head. "Our sect doesn't keep idle people." He then looked toward the gambler. The gambler, at least, was a real man. His expression stone cold, he said, "You actually had a plan all along, but no matter how strong you are, what of it? It's just the blessings given to you by the adults. Without these, you're nothing. You would have died by our hands a long time ago." Suchi looked at the gambler's fierce eyes and his kneeling legs. "When you say this, can you not kneel?" The gambler roared, "What do you care? I won't stand up unless you let me go." Suchi was stunned. What a shameless guy. Can't stand it. Suchi slapped the gambler, sending him flying. The gambler hit the ground hard and passed out. Dropped equipment. Suchi squinted at the Lin Yuan tag and a card on the ground. He picked them up, showing they could be added to the item slot. Well, he gladly accepted them. Suchi re-entered the fray, continuing the slaughter. From the VIP seats, the priest had designed this life-and-death combat to be a scene of horror, weirdness, and desperate struggle. But now the atmosphere had completely changed. The priest could hardly bear to watch any longer. Closing its eyes as if sighing, it slowly said, "Let's end this." As its voice emerged, all the aberrations in the floating land seemed to sense something, letting out shrieks and vanishing amidst the struggle. Suchi was slightly taken aback, feeling it was a pity. Although the strength was temporary, the blessings were substantial, especially since his spiritual power had already reached a very high level, approaching 300,000. It seemed with a little more, he could peer through the black fog concealing the VIP area. At this moment, Nancy, holding the microphone, didn't dare utter a word. He understood what would follow, but he couldn't announce it himself. "Little guy." The priest calmly looked at Suchi. "What's your name?" Suchi didn't respond with his ID. There must be a reason why his game name was hidden. If that was the case, Suchi lifted his head. "Speaking. Standing before you is." Nancy was taken aback. Why did that sound so familiar? He jolted, holding up the microphone and hastily answering. He previously claimed to be the sect hierarch of the Hustlers. The priest narrowed its eyes, seemingly surprised by this title. "The Hustlers? Sect hierarch? Seems like you have quite the ambition." "Then, little guy." Its gaze met Suchi's. "You win." Its voice spread throughout the entire venue. Countless people held their breath. Nancy's eyes widened, disbelieving that this exalted being had actually admitted defeat. On the other hand, Suchi shouted, "What do you mean by you win?" Nancy quickly shoved the microphone to his mouth, interrupting him. "Congratulations to this contestant for winning the gamble and for becoming the victor of the show. Let's cheer for the sect hierarch of the Hustlers." Cheering erupted from the stands. At the same time, streams of confetti burst throughout the venue. Wherever the eyes could see, it was a dazzling display. Suchi ignored the commotion, as two message boxes popped up before him. "You have completed the main line, winning in the show. Instance countdown teleportation has been initiated." There was the main line too, and the other came from that deep red exclamation point. Skill acquired. Unrivaled. Chapter 82 Settlement. Name, Unrivaled. Type, Skill. Function. When activated, your attributes will be replaced with blessed state values. During this period, you cannot use skills, activate equipment effects, or voluntarily pause. Consumption consumes 3% vitality per second and automatically stops when vitality drops to 5%, after which the player's original attributes are restored, physical strength drops to 10 points, and neither vitality nor physical strength can be recovered by any means for 10 minutes, can only be used once per instance. Note: triggering Unrivaled always comes at a cost. Su Chi fell silent. The skill was undeniably strong with a massive increase in basic attributes, but the cost was equally terrifying. Now I finally understand why Ultraman waits until the red light flashes before using his special moves. Su Chi closed the panel, unable to help but mutter to himself. Why are my skills always so all or nothing, either self-destruction or self-harm? And that damn mosquito, I've never had the chance to use it. No, I must find an opportunity to try it in the next instance. He shook his head and looked into the distance. At this moment, Brother Hai Xing and the kitten had returned to their normal states. Brother Hai Xing rubbed his head, looking around somewhat dazedly. What just happened? He was suddenly startled. Where's my conch shell? It's gone. The kitten's mouth gaped open, a tentacle extended, and handed a conch shell to him. It seems it had picked up the conch shell for Brother Hai Xing just now. TCH. Why does it feel kind of warm and fuzzy? And the CP of a cat and a starfish seems like a hard ship to sell as well. However, Brother Hai Xing stared at the conch shell for a second, then lifted his head to look at the kitten in shock. So it was you who stole my conch shell, kitten? At this time, the shadows in the surrounding audience stands were slowly fading away. They seemed to be projections too, and those few figures in the VIP seats had also left this place. Su Chi turned to Nancy and suddenly asked, Actually, I'm curious about something. How do you select participants, and how do you handle the aftermath? Nancy had regained her composure by now and said, All of you are people who have lost your way in the 10,000 realms. Guided here, of course, there's a price to pay. Losers are naturally detained by us, and winners, we send them back to their own worlds, Nancy said softly. Except that starfish probably can't go back. What happened to it? Its original world has already been destroyed. Who did it? Su Chi had seen the terrifying power of Brother Hai Xing's transformation. Nancy didn't speak. Su Chi understood. Nancy paused. So, when the time comes, wherever those two want to go, our show's team will try to accommodate as much as possible. How about that? Isn't our production team very conscientious? Su Chi looked at her oddly. Can you really say that with a straight face? Why not settle the commentary and hosting salary I did before first? That can be done. Nancy actually agreed, but the next moment she revealed a smug smile. But as a descender, you'll be leaving soon, so you might not be able to get it. Su Chi was stunned for a moment, then realized that even Russell knew about descenders, so it was normal for Nancy at her level to be aware. Were there many descenders participating before? Descenders are regulars on this show. It was obviously not Nancy's first time encountering them. But more than surviving, they care about becoming famous, really hoping to make the audience remember their names. It seems like they were grinding for reputation, leveling up titles. This show is indeed a good place to grind for reputation. However, they do not realize how difficult it is to gain the approval of this picky audience, Nancy said, shaking her head. Su Chi gave her an odd look and said, Is it that hard? That one question rendered Nancy silent. She looked solemnly at Su Chi. Suddenly I remember I have other matters to attend to. Goodbye. Teleporting out of instance. Player Su Bushin has cleared solo instance number 31276676. Game difficulty. Hard. Game score. 100. Calculating results. Earned perfect level clearance experience and 5126 game coins, and obtained 1 lottery draw chance. Your level has risen to 17. Gained 17 assignable attribute points. Instance summary. This was a regular show that many players have participated in, striving to survive a little longer, to make the host and the audience remember them. Yet few have managed to emerge. Not only did you accomplish that, but you also became the host, changing the flow of the show, and the host Nancy has made a deep note of you, adding you to her blacklist. Don't bother to improve yourself, but always put others down. Suu Kyi felt disappointed with Nancy. Notice. Title has been upgraded. He opened his reputation system. Title. Sect Hierarch of the Hustlers. 15238/1000000. Current level LV2. Emerging. Current title ability. Simulation. Can simulate someone else's aura, including name, panel information, etc. Does not possess actual panel strength. Requires contact with the object of simulation's aura. Will consume corresponding physical strength. Note. Your name seems to have started circulating among a small group of people. However, be aware. In the countless worlds, this is but a trivial beginning, and you are still unknown. Seems quite good. Suu Kyi pondered. He took out the gambler's token from his item slot, then tried to activate the simulation ability, and the next moment, Suu Kyi noticed his panel began to change, which means at least under others' probing, his panel would appear as someone else's. There was no change in aura, though. How could such a weakling have a significant aura? Suddenly, Suu Kyi thought of another character, the evil god. His gaze fixed on the evil god's eye, and his aura began to change gradually, but at the same time, his physical strength plummeted rapidly. With this rate of depletion, it can last less than 5 minutes. But he wasn't so idle as to simulate the aura of the evil god for no reason. Reputation system reminder. Someone has developed a strong curiosity about you. Reputation plus 102. Who is secretly curious about me? And to add so much at once? Suu Kyi paused slightly. It couldn't be Nancy. Could it? Didn't that person just blacklist him? Meanwhile, at a certain location, a middle-aged man, Sister Allen, and Yen Nan Kei were bidding farewell to a young man in front of them. This young man was named Nshingha, the sole heir to the Sunset Spirit King, doted on by the Spirit King, but he did not like the weird pollutants. The environment for receiving guests around him was considered the most normal among all the Spirit Prince's heirs. I will convey the message to my father, Nshingha said calmly and indifferently, aware that the people opposite represented paradise. He didn't recognize the other two, nor did he care. However, this middle-aged man had a great reputation, and he had heard of him. We look forward to the Spirit King's response, the middle-aged man said softly. We'll take our leave now and not disturb you further. As they left the premises, Nshingha glanced at the gifts they brought. More weird pollutants. Butler, throw these into the storeroom as well. Understood. The butler, dressed as a steward but not in human form, with compound eyes covering his head, watched as Nshingha stepped into the room, humming Two Tigers Love to Dance, and shook his head. Lately, the young master had been brainwashed by this song. He often inquired about the piano concerning the sect hierarch of the Hustlers, seemingly filled with curiosity. I wonder if I should report this. The butler was hesitant. Chapter 83. This is Su Buxian. The second day was clear with temperatures of 23 degrees, appropriate for making wishes while traveling. Suu Kyi never made wishes. Of course, that's a different story when it comes to drawing lots. His principles could sway based on his mood. So he chose to venture out of the mountains, to stroll around the neighborhood park. Although the name of the Hustlers sect hierarch hadn't spread in Abyssal Paradise yet, Suu Kyi was somewhat famous around the neighborhood, local community, and adjacent resident committees. Little Sue, come here. Keep this old man company for a game of chess. The old man sat beside the chessboard, waved at Suu Kyi, and rolled up his sleeves, ready to battle it out for 300 rounds. Suu Kyi glanced at the chess table. There's no stakes, I won't play. The old man became fierce. You brat, you want stakes? How arrogant. Narrowing his eyes, the old man said mysteriously, Then I have a treasure here, over 30 years old. Su Chi stepped back cautiously. Are you trying to sell me your daughter who's over 30 and still unmarried? You actually guessed it, the old man said, startled but calm. There's a saying, an older woman is a treasure trove. Think about it, that's a lot of gold bricks. Just be a decent person, old man. In the end, Su Chi still played chess with the old man, and of course the steak was half a soy sauce duck bought by the old man. Speaking of which, kid, you been busy. Just finished a reality show yesterday. While playing, the old man said earnestly, you must not get hooked on any games. Recently, I've heard of many young people getting addicted to this paradise, quitting their jobs, selling their homes, rambling on about logging on to Raid every day. Ah, games really can ruin people. That is actually happening. In short, if you don't have enough power in the game, you could pour money into it, but that carries risks because if you can't get into paradise, then all that investment goes down the drain. At that point, it's one seat for the rooftop VIPs. Oh no, rooftop VIPs full house. Su Chi reassured with a smile. Don't worry, old man. I never play games. Sometimes it's better to lie than to argue. At that moment, Su Chi's phone rang, a voice message from Night Guard. His tone was urgent and serious. Brother Su, remember to log on at 7 tonight. I need to discuss something important before the raid. Upon hearing log on and raid, the old man stiffened slightly, peering intently at Su Chi as if waiting for an explanation. Unflustered, Su Chi reached out and picked up a chess piece. General, wait. That move doesn't count. I want to take it back. Question mark. Fine, take back whenever you want. Half an hour later, Su Chi, carrying his soy sauce duck, strolled back home. The message from Night Guard was naturally about the resurrection tool mentioned by Su Linxiu earlier. A precious item seemed about to emerge, and many rookies were expected to compete for it. Moreover, the instance was named Lin Yuan Land. Although it wasn't an instance their current level could handle, Su Chi had heard this term many times already. In the previous show Love, Death, Super Gamers, a gambler claimed he came from Lin Yuan Land. After eating the soy sauce duck, all Su Chi could say was it was smooth. Freeloaded stuff has its own flavor. At that moment, Su Chi's phone in his pocket vibrated. Buzz, buzz, buzz. His phone was on Do Not Disturb mode, partly to prevent interruptions by ringtones while gaming, and secondly, the vibration was noticeable enough for him. Opening the phone to see the ID Yen Nan K, the message sent was, a series of ellipses often marks the start of a lot of hidden frustrations. Su Chi responded with a question mark, as a reply. I'm on a business trip today. So? On a business trip accompanying the leader to meet a client. Yen Nan K blurted out. What happened? Did the talks collapse? Cough cough, not really. Yen Nan K said, this client is like a second-generation rich kid. Our real target is actually this client's father. Su Chi curiously said, that sounds a bit complicated. Seems slightly troublesome. Quite troublesome. Yen Nan K expressed helplessly. It's all about preparing gifts and making house calls. The other party has a high status, and I feel like the gifts we presented didn't catch his interest. The attitude was very aloof and cold. Overall not very agreeable, but the guy is a big shot, son, so when you need a favor, there's no other way. Su Chi pondered and said, you should give him a couple of punches. Then he probably wouldn't be so indifferent. Oh. Now it was Yen Nank's turn to be confused. He complained, if I really hit him, I might end up dead and trigger a series of disastrous consequences. Then you'd have to collect my body. Feels like you're really in Myanmar. Su Chi seriously suspected Yen Nan K had ventured into illegal arms dealing. Just kidding. Yen Nan K paused. I'm logging off first. I've been too busy these days. When I find some time, I'll treat you to a meal. He logged off very quickly. Su Chi muttered to himself. Anyone who says they'll treat you to a meal another day is just leading you on. Plus he'll probably forget about it. No worries. Your brother Su will always remember. Su Chi looked at the gradually darkening sky outside, and it was nearly 7 p.m. He drew the curtains. Then he lay down in the gaming capsule. Neural connection in progress. Connection successful. Welcome player Su Buxian. ID number 985211. Logging into personal space. Su Qi snapped out of his brief trance and arrived at his personal login space. He walked straight to the loot box, as he had not used yesterday's draw chance yet. As the loot box shook continuously, eventually, with a bang, the box burst open, revealing a piece of equipment, and it was a weapon. Su Qi's eyes brightened. The 100-man slaughter blade didn't hold much improvement for him anymore, and he was looking for a chance to switch weapons. Here it was. Name: Thunderclap Bone-Shattering Hammer. Type: Equipment. Quality: Excellent. Function: This powerful hammer has a significant attack strength, with a 20% chance of causing a thunderstrike effect on each hit. Equipment condition: Strength must reach 40. Note: the forging master Orn, who is constantly imitating and making counterfeit equipment, seems to have been targeted recently and is on the run with funds. Though all his equipment is counterfeit, it surprisingly has quite good quality. It's quite heavy. Suigriptit. The silver-white rectangular hammerhead reflected light slightly, clearly not something just anyone could wield. Luckily, he had allocated the 17 attribute points he gained from leveling up yesterday mostly to strength, especially since he also had a shoulder guard that could add 500 points of physical strength and several physical strength recovery potions. He glanced at the daily shop again. Either nothing good had appeared, or merchants were asking astronomical prices. So he closed the interface. At that moment, Yishou sent him an invitation. Would you like to enter Linjiang Club Hall number 2? After Su Qi confirmed, he pushed the door open. In the hall, apart from Yishou and Su Linqiu, there were 5 other people. The moment he appeared, all 5 turned their gazes towards Su Qi, each with a different expression. Evaluating, surprised, dumbfounded, confused, and flabbergasted. And Yishou silently watched as Su Qi walked in carrying a box of beer in his left hand and a bag of snacks in his right. Brother Su, what are you doing? I just felt like we might be here a while, so I thought it prudent to prepare something to pass the time. I am about to discuss something important, you idiot. Su Linqiu, pressing his temple, looked towards everyone and slightly paused. Everyone, this is Su Buxian, and he is your final team member. Chapter 84. Super Rookies. Set out. Bang! Everyone silently watched Su Qi open the can of beer. Are you sure you don't want some? All 5 shook their heads in unison. What about the Night Watch? The Night Watch coughed. Aye. If it had been him before, he might have just declined. He whispered, Give me that bag of chicken feet. Su Linqiu. He found that no matter how serious the situation was, as soon as Su Qi arrived, the mood always seemed a bit different. However, that was fine for now. In the future, when they stepped into paradise, they would understand that abyssal paradise was a symbol of terror, severity, and fatality, and struggle was the norm. Time is limited, so I won't let you introduce yourselves and get to know each other one by one. Su Linqiu didn't notice that he had seemingly made a very wise decision unintentionally. After all, except for Su Buxian, each of you is a superstar newcomer from a major club. Even if you don't know each other, you've heard of one another. The 5 chuckled softly and nodded. Indeed, that was the case. The investigation bureau was essentially management, a kind of GM. They all came from different clubs, but their camp was under the banner of the investigation bureau. Now, the 6 of you are going to enter Linyuan land to compete. Su Linqiu softly continued, and according to our information, the other 2 major forces have also gathered 2 teams of superstar newcomers from their clubs below, holding the positions, ready to enter. The so-called other 2 major forces were human powers that had been established on their own during the times when the investigation bureau was not yet stable, constantly fighting in the abyss. Their overall strength was even stronger than that of the investigation bureau, and they divided paradise into 3, training newcomers, attracting clubs to station there, each defending their own corner. It looks like they're all some famous guys. A young man with earrings chuckled faintly. I have a hunch it's going to get very intense and fun. The others flashed eager looks, ready to try their hands. Su Lingqiu watched the scene, somewhat accustomed to it. After all, he had also emerged from the ranks of newcomers. Each superstar newcomer possessed innate talent. They could complete instances others couldn't. They played a role beyond ordinary people, and their combat strength was exceptional. Among them, only Su Qi seemed not to have much of a reputation yet. And Su Lingqiu watched in horror as Su Qi and the Night Watch added water, ready to eat a self-heating hot pot. You two are too idle. Never mind. He was already accustomed to it and had even been forced to participate. Su Lingqiu coughed and said with a gradually serious look, I remind you, what you should be most wary of are the cultists. Those guys will definitely want to seize this precious special transference item. Once taken by them, in the ranking battle before entering paradise, their strength will increase again, and they will become even more dangerous. Don't worry, we'll be careful, they said, their expressions turning slightly more serious at the mention of cultists. It's about time to go in. Su Lingqiu glanced at the time and reached out to take out 6 strangely aurid stones, handing them to the 6 individuals. These are special items that will allow you to enter Linyuan land, and you must remember to carry them on you. They can ensure that you can still contact each other even if you are scattered. Will we be scattered? A wavy-haired woman paused and spoke slowly. As I said, Linyuan land is a special place. Su Lingqiu said, anything can happen. A muscular man wiped his double-barreled shotgun and squinted with a smile. It seems indeed dangerous, but quite a challenge. Indeed interesting, said a man with a pigeon on his shoulder, pulling his hat brim down a notch, emotionlessly uttering these 4 words. The last young man, with his arms wrapped in bandages, chuckled. I, for one, am already eager to start. Su Qi looked at the others. Seemingly everyone had spoken, so he felt he should say something too. I just made some instant hot pot. Mind if I finish eating first? Everyone, are we sure he's not someone's relative? The young man with earrings twitched the corners of his mouth and said, we don't have much time. Let's get ready to begin. They were preparing to head back to their individual rooms, that is, the login space, and Su Qi simply decided to put the self-heating mini hot pot into his item slot, where at least time should be paused, and while he was at it, he also added some sunflower seeds and beer. Su Lingqiu ignored Su Qi's actions and, looking at the people about to enter the rooms, offered one last reminder. I understand that you all have a lot of confidence in yourselves, but Linyuan land is very special, and for you, it has already become an instance beyond nightmare level. The first thing to consider isn't the main mission, but to stay alive, to survive until the special job transfer items emerge. The next moment, 6 doors were shut, and 10 seconds later, a prompt appeared in all 6 people's vision. Using special item. Attention! About to enter team instance number 238714. Warning! This instance is extremely special. Current level of all individuals temporarily restricted to level 1. Item slots and skill bars temporarily disabled. Some of them changed their expressions. Others deepened their gaze. Restrictions? These restricted instances are the most troublesome, most dangerous, but it seems they're not completely restricted. There should be a way to regain their strength. Meanwhile, Su Qi was startled. Restrictions? Well, that's interesting. The next moment, darkness consumed them before they could react. A terrifying voice sounded close in their ears, with an exceedingly weird laugh. Welcome to Abyssal Paradise. At the same time, 2 powers, Yun Zhantian of first sequence. His 7-person team was also preparing to be transported to the Linyuan land instance. Zone 9, those rookies they found seemed to have some fame with good strength. It's a pity not to join us in Sequence City, said a man carrying a broadsword calmly. Investigation Bureau. After all, they are the founders and controllers of Zone 9. Many people are willing to reside there. Nothing much we can do about it. The short-haired girl blowing bubbles turned toward Yun Zhantian and giggled. Xiao Yun. It seems like you've encountered the investigation bureau's people before. Did you get any intelligence? Yun Zhantian shuddered and couldn't help dodging away. I only came across a player called Night Guard, and there's another named Su Buxian. He should also appear in this instance. Night Guard, huh? The son of that existence, damn second generation. As for the Su Buxian, I've never heard of him. A short man adjusted his glasses. He was wearing a mechanical backpack with steam coming out of the seams. I also don't know what kind of team the folks over at Free City have. The man with the broadsword gripped a stone. Let's go. Let's move out. Meanwhile, on the other side, another power was also poised to strike. The 5 from Free City, adorned with various colorful decorations, some completely encased in technology, others covered in runes, had varied expressions but all had eyes brimming with excitement. One stepped on a chair, with a cigarette in his mouth, sneering. Time to move out. Let the so-called super rookies from Zone 9 and Sequence City feel what being truly powerful is all about. Chapter 85. A bizarre beginning. Your level has been restricted to 1 skill bar and item slot, temporarily unavailable. Ignore this message that popped up again. Su Chi slowly opened his eyes. He found himself sitting on a chair in a bedroom, with yellowing walls and a black and red carpet. Sitting next to him on another chair was a boy with his left arm wrapped in bandages. His ID was simple and blunt, named Left Hand. It was hard not to imagine whether something like the Black Dragon Wave skill was sealed in his left arm. Left Hand's eyelids trembled slightly as he cautiously opened his eyes. Then he was greeted by Su Chi's smile, who gently said, "You're awake. The surgery was very successful. You're now a genuine boy." Left Hand looked stunned for a moment, then bellowed after 2 seconds, "I was already a boy. Damn it." Left Hand took a breather and looked around. It seems like the others aren't here. Su Chi sat on the chair, pulled out a book from next to him, flipping through it as he spoke. As old Su said, we did indeed get separated, and it's likely in pairs of 2. This book is interesting though. It even has recipes like red wine braised beef. Left Hand looked slightly astonished and touched his left arm. I thought the worldview of Lin Yuan Land would be all fears, pollution, and barren lands. But it seems it's still a modern worldview. Don't jump to conclusions too quickly. Su Chi looked at the bedroom window boarded up with various steel nails. Not even a sliver of light or gap could penetrate. He felt a sense of familiarity. Although I still don't know what the outside world is like, it's better to stay alert and not miss any information. Left Hand snorted softly. Do you think I need you to tell me that? I have already observed the surroundings. The bedroom clearly is a double room, likely for a couple. The outside world is invisible, and there are stains on the carpet, possibly blood, as I can barely detect a faint smell of blood. He exhibited excellent observation skills, crucial for a super rookie, not just for strength but also for judging instances. Is that so? Not bad, but you haven't completely assessed the information. How is that possible? Left Hand frowned. Su Chi reached out and picked up an ashtray from nearby. For example, from this ashtray we can tell the man of the house likes to smoke. Left Hand fell silent. He tried to awaken the system. Can I change teammates? But Su Chi ignored him, staring at the ashtray, squinting his eyes and observing closely, softly saying, the man of the house is about 40 years old, slightly overweight, about 6 feet tall with curly, slightly yellow hair, and he wears size 44 shoes. Left Hand. Is there such information on the ashtray? Right? Su Chi paused, then added, this man also has a heavy tongue coating, and there's also a large black mole near the corner of his brow. Left Hand finally couldn't hold back anymore and roared. You can tell all that from an ashtray? Su Chi gently put down the ashtray, his eyes calm, staring at Left Hand. You only see the surface things, unable to see through the deception, unable to notice all minor details. Clues often lie in the smallest margins. Left Hand was shaken, feeling the genuine presence from Su Chi. Could it be he really saw all that from the ashtray? Pass me that ashtray then, let me see. Taking the ashtray seriously, Left hand couldn't see any marks. He slightly lifted it. Suddenly, left hand froze. Above, a slightly yellow ceiling lamp swayed slightly. And beneath the lamp, strung up by a rope, hung the silhouette of a middle-aged man, pale-faced with a long, dangling tongue, also swaying slightly. After a moment of silence, Left Hand bellowed, "So the damn man was right here, and I thought you actually found all those clues from the ashtray. Bastard!" Su Chi snapped his fingers. "Don't mind these details. I was merely supplementing the clues." Left Hand looked at the ashtray in his hand again, forcibly resisting the urge to throw it. "Fine, this time it's on me. There's a corpse hanging overhead, and I didn't notice it." Left Hand raised his head and looked at the hanging corpse. Just like Su Chi said, this must be the male owner. His appearance was exactly as previously described. At that moment, an information box appeared before them. Main mission triggered. Find a way to leave the bedroom, regroup with your teammates, and escape the house. Left Hand paused slightly. "It looks like the others are in this house too. We need to get out of this bedroom first, then meet up with them." He walked over and tried to open the bedroom door but obviously failed. The door didn't seem to be locked, since when is there a door that locks from the outside? Yet there definitely was a sinister force blocking it. As expected, it won't open. "It looks like the two of us need to find a key." Left Hand pensively looked at the corpse. "Su Buxian, I'm planning to take down this corpse. What do you think?" The two of them were now a team, both limited in strength and had to cooperate. "I think you should abandon that idea." "Why?" Su Chi looked at the middle-aged man and murmured, "Because this seriously injured owner is very dangerous." Left Hand roared, "Where is he seriously injured? This is a corpse that couldn't be deader." "Dead? That's debatable. Physical death doesn't mean the soul is dead." Left Hand was stunned for a moment, his face in disbelief. "Are you saying he's turned into a ghost? Or perhaps a spirit? Is there a difference?" "In any case," Su Chi picked up a screw that had popped out. "The ceiling light above is barely holding up. As soon as he lands, I think something bad is going to happen." "You see." Su Chi squinted his eyes. His eyeballs just moved a bit. "Seems like he's staring at us." Shivers involuntarily ran down Left Hand's back. He looked up. The hangman already looked extremely terrifying, and now with Su Chi's words, it felt as if he truly was being stared dead by the middle-aged man. Not sure about the movement, but the chill on his back intensified. Left Hand took a deep breath. Understood. He had unknowingly fallen into following Su Chi's rhythm, and began rummaging through the room, looking for the key. At that moment, bang! 2 screws fell down, and the ceiling light suddenly dropped a bit, causing the middle-aged corpse to shake and fall as well. This time Left Hand saw it too. The middle-aged man's eyeballs were indeed moving and staring intently at them. Left Hand shuddered deeply. Even he couldn't avoid feeling a chill upon seeing this scene. With no strength to rely on, his sense of security was paper-thin. What's more, the middle-aged man's face with his tongue sticking out became even more eerie, coupled with a creepy, mocking laugh that was hissing through his tightened throat. It seemed to mock their overconfidence, laughing at their inability to escape. "Stop laughing." Su Chi turned the doorknob and cracked the door open. "Time to go." The middle-aged man's smile abruptly ceased. Chapter 86 Quadrilateral Game. The middle-aged man's smile froze as he blankly stared at the open door and the two people chatting. Left Hand exclaimed in surprise, "You found the key." Su Chi nodded and thought for a moment. Right under the carpet. Damn. It's that obvious? I was flipping through the cabinet for ages and found nothing. To think it was in that place." Left Hand rubbed his chin in annoyance, watching the two chatting as they walked out. The middle-aged man roared inside his heart. "You're tricking ghosts. The damn key was right under my tongue. By the normal process, you were supposed to find the key and then try to carefully retrieve it before I hit the ground. Then, at the moment you were about to take it out, I would hit the ground and slaughter you too." Why aren't you following the rules? And how the hell was this door opened? Come back here. Unfortunately, the middle-aged man, with his neck tightly constricted, couldn't say a word, making an indistinct sound. Abba, Abba, Abba. Left Hand was taken aback. What's wrong with him? Su Chi looked back at the middle-aged man. Maybe he's in a rush to use the bathroom? Is that so? Left Hand followed Su Chi out, still somewhat confused. He vaguely felt that something was not right, wondering if leaving was too simple. Was this really beyond nightmare-level difficulty? Bang! The next instant, the door shut mercilessly, leaving the middle-aged man still hanging there, gently swinging as if on a swing. After the two left the bedroom, there was a dark corridor. Su Chi looked at the corridor, which, though flickering with dim lighting, appeared very dark due to the enclosed environment and the absence of any external light sources. It seems they haven't come out yet. Left Hand squinted. Their item slots were temporarily locked, so they couldn't contact each other with stones. Su Chi didn't explain. He skipped the level directly through the question mark hint. Wasn't it quick? In Tentacle Man's apartment, it was the same. Doors were just not that much of a challenge for Su Chi. They walked around and both realized the issue. Left Hand frowned deeply. Did you notice? Yep. Left Hand spoke gravely. There's no exit in this corridor. It's a swastika shape. And even the door we just came out of has disappeared. Su Chi's eyes held a bit of interest as he looked around. Ghost wall. Huh? Indeed, there was a sinister strength influencing this place. Suddenly, Su Chi saw a question mark. He walked over and looked at the darkened corner with interest. There's some writing here. It was carved forcefully with a sharp object. The next moment, a prompt appeared in both their sights. To break the ghost wall, you must play the Four Corners game. Left Hand's gaze sharpened. The Four Corners game. A kind of spiritual exploration game. Su Chi softly explained. For people stand in the four corners of the swastika corridor. One person walks behind the next, taps his shoulder, and calls out his own name. Then the next person does the same, continues walking forward. Relay this until the fourth person reaches the first person's original spot and coughs to signal everyone is in place. He showed some interest. The most interesting part of this game is that there might appear a fifth person who doesn't exist. Why are you so familiar with it? And where is it interesting? It's obviously very eerie and dangerous. Left Hand furrowed his brow. But right now, there's just the two of us. Su Chi looked towards the distant wall, where suddenly a door flickered in and out of view. It seems the other two have arrived. Earring Youth Qing Lang, Wavy Hair Woman, Bai Changwei. The two suddenly burst out, quickly closing the door behind them, ensuring that nothing inside had emerged before they began to gasp for air violently. It was clear from their bodies that they had been in a fight. Don't misunderstand. It was a real fight. They suddenly heard footsteps and looked up with extreme caution, only to see Su Chi and Left Hand, and they breathed a sigh of relief. It's just you guys. After a few more gasps for air, they had recovered somewhat. Then they began to recount how they too had been trapped in a storage room, where a ghost baby had been lurking, very dangerous. In order to obtain the key, they nearly faced a fatal threat. Thankfully, being super rookies, they reacted swiftly and, using all the information and clues from the room, they managed to turn the tables and escaped. Left Hand's silence grew deeper the more he listened. This didn't seem to match their experience. You guys seem to have come out ahead of us, Qing Lang observed, noting no signs of battle on them. Their clothes were even tidy. Left Hand opened his mouth. Well, similar to you guys. Su Chi's eyes darkened slightly as he spoke. We nearly died in there too. The deathly gazes, the terrifying laughter, the meaningless speech. Finally, we opened the door with difficulty and luckily escaped with our lives. Left Hand. Is that so? It sounded very believable, but something didn't feel right. Damn it. Left Hand sighed. Anyway, a warning for you all now. We've encountered a ghost wall and are trapped in this hallway puzzle. He led the two over to where the inscription was. Qing Lang and Bai Qiangwei's expressions tightened. They were obviously familiar with this four-cornered game as well, and there were several more cautionary rules. Rule 1. In the event of anything happening, please absolutely do not look back. Rule 2. When tapping someone's shoulder, please announce your own name. Rule 3. If you notice something is amiss, choose your own method to deal with it. Bai Qiangwei looked down, her expression grave. It looks like there will be great danger. The male protagonist and the ghost baby have appeared. Next, I'm afraid the female protagonist will make her entrance. Qing Lang calmly proposed. If a fifth person appears at that time, then we would only be able to run frantically along the hallway until an exit from this ghost wall appears. The other two are probably trapped in a room somewhere. They won't be able to leave on their own. The game must be completed by us four. In this instance, there were many fatal threats. The passage of time was not meaningless, as dragging things out felt increasingly dangerous. Su Qi snapped his fingers. I think there's an even better way to handle this. What is it? They looked at this somewhat unfamiliar man before them. If something feels off, don't make a fuss. Just play a few more rounds. Maybe a sixth person will show up, and we can let them fight it out. That way, everything would be resolved. What an odd idea. And the serious way you're considering it is freaking us out. Watching as Su Qi walked towards the end of the hallway. Bai Qiangwei looked somewhat stunned at Left Hand. He must be joking, right? Left Hand was about to nod but hesitated. Well, he really wasn't sure. Let's go, Qing Lang said with calm composure. Time waits for no one, we'll decide on the spot. In such an instance, any plans or strategies could easily lead to unexpected accidents, so it all depended on each person's ability to judge and react to the situation. For corners, Qing Lang number 1, Left Hand number 2, Bai Qiangwei number 3, and Su Qi was the last. But as they took their positions, the lights in the hallway suddenly went out. Complete darkness, without a single glimmer of light. The three of them couldn't see anything in front of them, and their hearts sank. Yet in the darkness, Su Qi's vision was crystal clear, seeing through everything. Chapter 87. Guess who I am? Sweep away the darkness. Return to oneself. Anyway, Su Qi got excited. The Night Demon Gene disregarded any limits, adding 30 points each to physical strength, and movement technique in the dark. It had played a significant role in the previous orphanage instance, where these enhancements were akin to a bug-level existence in restriction-type instances. Moreover, while others were blind at a glance, Su Qi, relying on the night vision function, could clearly see every movement in the darkness. At this moment, Qing Lang reminded once again, remember, no matter what happens, do not look back. Only follow the name, and proceed only if the name is correct. If you notice something abnormal, whether you choose to deal with it discreetly without startling the issue or decide to make a break for it outright, trust in your judgment. Qing Lang kept his composure, slowly walking forward. In the quiet corridor, the sound of footsteps was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. He groped in the dark and quickly reached behind Left Hand, patting his shoulder. I'm Qing Lang. Left Hand steadied his heart a bit and then moved forward as well. Walking in complete darkness is an extremely unsettling affair, and it's difficult to walk in a straight line without veering off course unknowingly. Bang! A loud thud suddenly erupted in the quiet darkness, startling everyone. Bai Qiangwei's voice trembled slightly, as she couldn't turn to look, and of course, even if she did, she wouldn't be able to see. Left Hand, what happened? Left Hand's voice came with annoyance. I have no idea. Su Qi's voice followed. Calm down, it's me. I dropped something. What the hell could you drop that would make such a loud noise? Left Hand was stunned for a moment, murmuring, I always feel like letting him go last is dangerous. He held his breath, disregarding these thoughts, and continued to feel his way forward in the dark. He soon reached behind Bai Qiangwei, patting her shoulder. I'm Left Hand. Bai Qiangwei's heart steadied a bit. My turn now. As one of the super rookies, She was not afraid of the dark and began to move forward. In fact, as long as the first round hadn't ended, everyone was probably still safe. The most critical point was Su Qi. He volunteered to be number 4, which meant a much higher risk than the others. She touched the walls, feeling her way slowly, and stepped behind Su Qi, patting his shoulder. By Changwei. Be careful. Something might happen next. Stay safe. Su Qi said, Relax. My greatest strength is being steady. Listening to Su Qi's tone, Bai Changwei calmed down a bit, figuring that Senior Su wouldn't recruit any players without capabilities for their team. Although she couldn't see, she could already sense that Su Qi had started moving. And in the darkness, Su Qi picked up an ashtray. Without relying on the wall or slowing down, he walked straight forward with no impediment. Everything around him was within his sight. He was contemplating one thing: whether the ashtray could hurt this vanishing mistress. After all, they've encountered a ghost hitting a wall, and if the opponent was undead, physical attacks might not be effective when the time came. The other 3 were unaware that Su Qi had already begun to entertain a dangerous idea. At this time, Su Qi also arrived at the empty spot, and as he stood firmly, he coughed lightly, signaling the end of the 4 corners game and indicating to the others that he had reached the destination. 1 round over. Let me see what will happen. Su Qi watched the darkness closely, and the others also began to look more solemn, because the footsteps of the 5th person appeared. In the darkness, the clear and heavy footsteps reached everyone's ears. The sound was extremely odd, making it impossible to determine where it originated from. But it seemed as if everyone felt that the footstep was right behind them, slowly creeping closer with each step. Did any of you move? Left Hand, sensing the footsteps behind her, quickly asked. But at this moment, there was no response, as if the sound had been blocked. Being in complete darkness was an extremely unsettling experience to begin with. Fear would escalate continuously over time. Moreover, there were slowly approaching footsteps from behind. It was as if an echo effect had been activated, resonating gradually. Everyone could no longer distinguish whether the sound came from a teammate or the 5th person. The 3 people began to sweat on their foreheads, feeling a chill throughout their bodies, as it was now their turn to decide whether to stand still or flee forwards. Qing Lang's body suddenly shivered, a hand landing on his shoulder. This was no illusion. He only felt a tightness in his shoulder, a nameless chill rushing to his heart, causing his head to grow dizzy. It's me. Who else could it be? Report your name. Qing Lang was just about to speak out. Ah! A frightened and painful scream came from behind. Hurry! Save me! Qing Lang's instinct almost made him turn around, but he forcefully stopped himself. It looks like someone is in danger. Let's hurry over there. Su Buxian urged from behind him. At this moment, Qing Lang had regained a bit of composure, his voice hoarse as he spoke. You're Su Buxian, right? Yeah, what's with the question? We need to save them quickly. But Qing Lang narrowed his eyes. Please, repeat your name once more. But I've just answered you. Qing Lang's eyes remained narrowed. Something was definitely off. The voice, though similar to Su Buxian's, was unwilling to give its name and was even more unnerving. The conclusion was already apparent. Although the rule forbade it, Qing Lang gritted his teeth, growling loudly. He actually struck his head violently backwards, attempting to repel the ghost behind him before preparing to flee. But the next moment he hit nothing. Qing Lang only felt a pair of hands firmly resting on his shoulders, slowly moving toward his neck. A creepy female voice sounded in his ear. Why don't you? Trust me. Turn around. A strange force was trying hard to turn Qing Lang's head. Qing Lang let out a roar, but he couldn't break free at all, trembling incessantly, unable to move, as if a ghost was pressing down on him, and his head kept tilting backwards, looking behind him. This was an absolutely unbreakable rule. Turning one's head would invariably lead to a deadly threat. He. The woman's laughter was odd, imbued with a horrifying and peculiar strength. You seem even better than my worthless husband. So stay here. It was over. He couldn't hold on any longer. Qing Lang's body shook, his head uncontrollably leaning back, and at that moment, a hand gently laid on the ghost woman's shoulder. The strength in the ghost's hand momentarily faltered. Then a voice came to her ear. Madam, why not guess who I am? Chapter 88. Auntie, take it down a notch. The female ghost was somewhat frozen at this moment. She hadn't expected someone to actually approach under the influence of her strength. Qing Lang was clenching his teeth hard, his face flushed red. He probably knew who was behind him, but rather than feeling relieved, he roared, Su Buxian, right? Her strength is very strange. It seems like spiritual control. Be careful. Look at that. This is the professionalism of a superb rookie. At such a life-threatening crisis point, there was no screaming, no panicking, just quick communication of information to his teammates. Su Buxian's indifferent voice came through. Ghost hitting walls, naturally, such situations would also occur. In the darkness, he had seen Qing Lang's figure standing motionless, his mouth moving but not making any sound. Then, this woman opened a door from the wall of the corridor, slowly floated out, and lunged at Qing Lang. Of course, what Su Qi cared more about was the exclamation point above her head. Prepare a candlelight dinner for her. Maybe there will be a reward. Su Qi looked at the female ghost. Tisk, why aren't you talking anymore? Weren't you asking me to guess who I am? Su Qi's grip on the female ghost gradually intensified. The female ghost hoarsely said, Do you want to die? I don't mind if you don't want to guess. I can introduce myself. Qing Lang was somewhat dazed. With so little time, what are you doing? Don't tell me you haven't noticed? Question mark. Su Qi looked at the figure of the female ghost, still holding Qing Lang's head in the darkness. She can't turn her head back either. The female ghost's expression was a mix of surprise and doubt. What do you want to do? I warn you, I am a married woman. If you want to do that kind of thing. Her tone changed slightly, and her whole lower back bent down further. Hurry up. As long as he doesn't find out, it's fine. Qing Lang. Su Qi. The female ghost smirked. If you satisfy me, I might consider collecting you all properly, putting you in the toy room. Su Qi watched the female ghost's body sway intentionally, leaning backward. He silently lifted an ashtray and slammed it hard directly onto her head. Auntie, you're nearly 60 years old. Your skin is almost sagging to the ground. Tone it down a bit. Bang! With that sound, Su Qi viciously smashed the ashtray onto the female ghost's head. Although she could create strangeness and control minds, it seemed she wasn't immune to physical damage. This ghost, polluting the world, was different from the traditional concept of a ghost. Auntie Ghost's head was knocked askew by the ashtray, and even her neck broke apart. She was smacked senseless, but amidst the cracking sounds of bones, her head twisted back into place. Her expression was even more fierce and angry, emitting an ear-splitting shriek. You're asking for death. Bang! Su Qi suddenly hit her again. After all, she couldn't turn her head back. The female ghost was even more bewildered. Actually, you should be able to feel excitement and thrill because the ashtray I'm hitting you with belongs to your husband. How about that? Does it add excitement? Make you want it more? Qing Lang's eyelids twitched violently. Damn it. You got the wrong kind of excitement. Listening to the slap 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 sounds behind him and the female ghost's piercing growls, Qing Lang swore. His desire to turn his head around now was 10 times stronger than before. No, 100 times. And he also noticed that the female ghost's hand had withdrawn, and the strength controlling him had dissipated. Su Qi's hand suddenly swung through empty air. He narrowed his eyes. I see. The other party could only show a tangible body when touching someone else. Only then could she be physically harmed. Once she let go, she would become a spiritual body state, and her greatest strength was still the ghost's forte, spiritual control. The female ghost at this moment had unkempt hair, face full of wrinkles and a strange smile, staring fixedly at Qing Lang. "Kid, you've angered me. I'll tear you to shreds." Qing Lang felt a chill on his back. That eerie strength and murderous intent were all surging towards him, constantly causing his brain to ring and his ears to burst. He roared, "What's it got to do with me? You tell him. It's not me who annoyed you. Stay calm. She just can't turn her head back," Su Buxian said, looking at the dematerializing female ghost. And then, something unexpected happened. The door next to them suddenly opened. The female ghost let out a ferocious laugh, her hair growing explosively long. Oh no! Her black hair strands tightened around Su Qi like iron wires. Suddenly, it yanked her towards this direction. Su Qi had not expected this at all. The strand of hair was not a spiritual impact. Although it looked fierce, it didn't carry much strength. He could even pull it back with a bit of effort. However, Su Qi only hesitated for a moment without resisting and chose to be taken inside. Snap! The door slammed shut. Qing Lang felt the movement behind him but could only shout ahead, "Su Buxian, are you still there?" But there was no response. Meanwhile, the eerie strength in the corridor also vanished. The flickering lights slowly recovered. Realizing that the Four Corners game had ended, Bai Changwei and Left Hand had quickly arrived. They noticed Qing Lang with 2 blue handprints on his neck and exclaimed with shock and suspicion, "What happened? Where is Su Buxian?" Bai Changwei and the others had just been affected, unable to hear any sounds. At that moment, a large number of doors also appeared along the wall. 2 people were flung out from one of the doors. They were Muscle Gun Man and Pigeon Man, whom they had not yet met. The muscular man's ID was simple and robust, known as Muscle Bully. The hat-wearing man was Tuner. They shook their heads, feeling somewhat groggy. It seems that by completing the Four Corners game they can come out, Left Hand said with joy. But at that moment, before they could exchange words, click! 2 more doors slowly opened. The crying of the ghost baby came from one door, and the terrifying figure of a middle-aged man stood at the doorway, about to come out. Shit! I knew it! The one to curse was unexpectedly Bai Changwei. Run! Qing Lang growled low. The 5 of them began to flee without any hesitation. Now, without strength, naturally, they could not confront these things. As they ran, Qing Lang recounted what had just happened. Su Buxian was just taken away by that female ghost. The door she took him through, I glanced at it. It leads to the dining room, and right in front of a big door. That must be the exit. Left Hand frowned tightly. That means now we have to find that door and rescue Su Buxian. Anyway, hurry up. We don't know if Su Buxian can hold out until we regroup. They moved very quickly, trying to open each door densely packed along the corridor. Most of them simply revealed a wall and sprang back, making it easy to get confused. And behind them was the relentless pursuit of the middle-aged man, with the ghost baby lying on his back, emitting shrill cries, inflicting spiritual impact on them. They were almost chased for several rounds. Their faces were all as pale as death, extremely disheveled. However, Tuner played a significant role here with his excellent memory. He remembered every door that each person had opened. Finally, after a thorough screening, he said in a low voice, "Found it! Hurry in!" Muscle Bully roared, and after the 5 people rushed in, their figures streamed out one after the other. Left Hand commanded in a low voice, "Where is Su Buxian? Hurry up and rescue him. And then leave this place straight away." Right? Where was Su Buxian? He should have been with the female ghost. Qing Lang's eyes suddenly trembled. Beside the long table in the dining room, the older female ghost was tied tightly to a chair with blood-stained ropes, unable to break free. And Su Qi used a torch to ignite the tablecloth, overturned a large basin with red wine, and a bloody steak was placed on the table. Left Hand stood there stunned. "What are you doing? Was this some kind of evil ritual?" Su Qi glanced at the exclamation point above the woman ghost's head and said, I'm preparing a candlelit dinner for her. Feeling that the flames were not big enough, he tossed in another bottle of alcohol, causing the fire to leap several meters high. Can't you see? The rest. Setting aside the eerie scene for a moment, all they wanted to say was, "You really call this a candlelit dinner?" Chapter 89: The Terrifying World Outside. Run! Left Hand could no longer mock these absurdities, overflowing with all kinds of ridiculousness, and couldn't help but yell out loud, because the middle-aged man carrying the ghost baby had already rushed out. His appearance was terrifying, with fierce light radiating from his eyes, and his long tongue could even shoot out, though not as threatening as the liquors, but still extremely dangerous. Su-Chi watched as the exclamation point above the female ghost's head slowly dissipated, and he didn't hesitate. "It's been pleasant. See you next time." He turned and ran. The female ghost was a spiritual impact, naturally suppressed by him. But the middle-aged man was different. He was a purely strong corpse, combined with the ghost baby's ability. The whole family was gathered, drastically increasing the danger. And Su-Chi had also gotten what he wanted. It was time to slip away. Name: blinding. Type: skill. Function: can designate a target, causing their spirit to be impacted, with a certain chance of their senses falling into chaos. Consumption: 200 physical strength. Judgment method: your spiritual power needs to be higher than the opponent's. The higher the spiritual power, the greater the chance of the opponent's senses being confused. Note: this is a method essential for ghosts. They often use it to toy with those who fear them. Everyone had already rushed to the door, which was wrapped with layer upon layer of iron chains. "I've got this." Muscle Bully lived up to his name. Grunting softly, he tore apart several chains. As long as they opened this door, they could also escape the house, completing the main mission. Watching this scene, Su-Chi spoke softly. "Something is not right, family." "Indeed." Tuner turned back calmly. "They haven't followed." Everyone also turned back, noticing that the middle-aged man had stopped and stood in the distance, that terrifying ghost face watching their actions, actually revealing a hesitant and wary expression, as if he dared not approach the door. It seems that the world outside must be extremely dangerous. Bai Qiangwei observed the emotions on the middle-aged man's face. The female ghost let out a sinister snicker. "You want to go out? What a suicidal act." Qing Lang squinted his eyes, trying to extract more information, but the female ghost didn't utter another related word, just disheveled and with that old demonic pale face and blood-red eyes, eerily watching them, muttering as if casting a curse. "You will all die. You will definitely die. Especially that guy called Su Buxian." Su-Chi? ? I kindly set up a candlelight dinner for you, and you curse me like this? Click. The door was open. A cold wind blew in from the crack, and looking through, you could see a dilapidated street in the doorway. Su-Chi's gaze extended. Linyuan Land. According to Su Linqiu's words, it was extremely dangerous, and it also had quantum anomalies with bizarre changes. Anything could happen. "Anyway, let's go out first," Qing Lang said, pushing the door open, "to see what comes next." Left Hand took one last look back as he stepped out of the room. He saw that the family of three all had creepy smiles, as if watching dead people. The player has completed the gathering and successfully escaped from the house. The main mission is completed. Reward 1. All player level restrictions lifted. Reward 2. Never lost compass. A compass design slowly appeared on everyone's wrist. The pointer on the design was trembling slightly. Su-Chi's eyes swept over. Name: Never Lost Compass. Function: it constantly points towards the final Pure Land of Linyuan Land. Can it be taken out of the instance? No. Note: in this strange world, the only thing you can trust is this pointer. Without it, you'll be trapped in the Lost Land forever. Look! Bai Qiangwei pointed into the distance. It was only then that everyone noticed. The scenery within 50 meters centered on them was all composed of strange and surreal images. It was as if it had been pixelated and then smeared with various abstract colors. constantly transforming, and permeated with an overwhelming sense of horror and intense unease, as if looking at it for too long would cause an explosion. Indeed, this is the true Linyuan land. Qing Lang's expression turned grave. The mansion behind us was just a greeting. Su Qi looked at the mysterious colors around them and spoke softly. I remind you all, don't stare at these mosaics, or you'll get lost in them. Just pay attention to the pointer in your hand. Everyone nodded. After only a few seconds of looking, they felt dizzy and like they were about to fall in. Then why are you still staring? Left Hand noticed that Su Qi hadn't looked away. Su Qi patted his shoulder. When my phone is down to 3% battery, I still won't go looking for a charger. This alone proves my willpower is strong. What's that got to do with willpower, you ask? Left Hand was about to retort, but he suddenly sensed something and swallowed his words. He said in a deep voice, You think I'm going to retort? No, I held back. Su Qi was momentarily stunned, then clapped his hands, his eyes lighting up. Impressive, impressive. That certainly isn't worth applause and praise. Left Hand almost spoke again but held back. That was close. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. The tuner looked at the pointer. Our pointers are all pointing in the same direction, so let's make sure not to get separated. The 6 of them headed in one direction. The so-called lost land. Truly eerie. As Su Linqiu had said, anything was possible because with every few steps taken, a different scene would appear. One moment it was a decrepit street. A few steps later it would turn into a graveyard. A few more steps and there would be a crashed, abandoned airplane with its insides full of severed limbs, or a town where countless crosses were planted in the ground, all with dead bodies nailed to them. In short, these scenes were like a world pieced together from countless eerie fragments. The only thing they could trust was the pointer on their wrists. Hush! Su Qi suddenly held up a finger. Everyone stop and stay silent. They didn't see anything amiss, but upon Su Qi's command, they immediately halted their steps and fell silent. This was the quality of a good teammate. If they had been the type of pig-headed teammate who, upon hearing such a command, would foolishly inquire, Why should we stop? Why should we stay quiet? Resisting the urge to give them a couple of punches was the sign of a good teammate. The tuner slightly narrowed his eyes. He hadn't heard anything, but his intuition told him that some danger was looming close. And at that moment, a heavy, thunderous sound approached, with the ground trembling faintly. What was that? The group couldn't help but look up, gazing into the distance. A colossal foot, stepping on a house, crashed down with a bang, pulverizing it into powder. This figure also let out a low growl, descending from the sky dome like a siren at its highest power. The surrounding pixelations flickered with the vibrations. The terrifying aura changed everyone's expressions, their ears ringing and throbbing, and it was unbearable to look directly at it. At the same time, information appeared before everyone's eyes. Spiritual Power -1. Chapter 90 The Ghoul of the Pure Land. As the terrifying figure departed, everyone finally caught their breath. Bai Changwei's complexion wasn't looking good. A bit pale. I just lost some spiritual power. Qing Lang's tone became heavier. Me too. I've lost a bit. Only 29 left now. They began to calculate each other's spiritual power. What are we calculating this for? Su Qi asked, curious. The group was taken aback, looking at Su Qi strangely. We must calculate, because spiritual power can't be replenished in an instance, and it's extremely precious. The tuner brushed the dust that had just sprinkled on his clothes and spoke softly. This so-called lost land is riddled with vast amounts of spiritual pollution. If we want to reach the so-called pure land at the end, we need to be extremely cautious. Although we each have spiritual power equipment, it's a pity we can't take it out now, so we must plan our every move meticulously. Left Hand patted Su Qi on the shoulder. It seems, kid, you haven't experienced an instance that places huge demands on spiritual power. If you had, you'd understand how terrifying it is.
Sui.
He glanced at his prompt box. Spiritual power -1, current 453. At this moment, everyone revealed their spiritual attribute, with Bai Changwei at the lowest. She only had 18 left while the tuner was the highest. He had an impressive 65. Looks like he specializes in the spiritual attribute, and his future career direction is also related to it. Based on the differences in their spiritual power, they could also determine their next plan and strategic allocations. Su Buxian, what about you? Qing Lang asked Su Qi. Just assume I'm about the same as you all. Su Qi pulled out a steel bar from the rubble of a nearby abandoned building. I suggest we get some weapons. Our levels have now recovered, at least we have the power to fight. He then looked towards left hand. You don't need to grab one. Question mark. When any monster appears, you just need to open the seal on your left arm's bandage, recite the incantation, and release the sealed black dragon. Left hand. First of all, that kind of thing doesn't exist. He took a deep breath. Besides, I'm not into such Chinibu antics. The group continued to move forward. Most of what they had seen before were bizarre scenes, but as long as they didn't actively delve deeper and kept to the side, generally, nothing dangerous would happen. But the further they went, the more living things they encountered. Some could be circumvented, while others were unavoidable. For instance, the path in front of them. On both sides were mosaic-like twisted images, with only a narrow alley in the middle. If they wanted to get by, they naturally had to go through the middle of the alley. But, standing in the alley was a sinister figure, its face indiscernible, seemingly waiting for them with a scythe in hand. What do you think? Muscle Bully couldn't help but ask. The tuner whispered, Not enough information, hard to analyze. Bai Changwei, we can only try to probe first. Qing Lang nodded. I suggest we divide into groups to avoid a team wipeout. Left Hand spoke solemnly. Exactly. In case of danger, we should support each other. Su Qi pondered seriously and suggested hesitantly. Then I suggest we use rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes first. The group. Hold on. Wasn't there a strange tactic just now? I'll go first. The tuner's gaze was calm. It seems the other party is also of the pollution class abnormality. I have the highest spiritual power here. In case there's a problem, I should be able to withstand it. I'll go with you. Qing Lang chose to accompany the tuner. Because the tuner had high spiritual power, it inherently meant his physical attributes were low, and Qing Lang had to step in to balance that. Su Qi gazed at the black shadow, which displayed the word ghoul above it. It seemed to have no hostility. As the two cautiously walked forward, approaching the black shadow, they encountered no danger. 2. The black shadow, dressed in a black robe and holding a scythe, lifted its head but still had an indiscernible face, only a cloud of black fog swirling around it. It spoke gently, its voice hoarse yet ethereal, as if communicating directly with their souls, conveying a sense of vainness and insubstantiality. Lost ones. I am the ferryman spirit of the Pure Land. You want to pass through here, to proceed ahead. Its tone was devoid of any ripples, but it was hoarse and eerie. You need to answer 2 questions of mine and lying is prohibited. The tuner and Qing Lang exchanged glances. Since they could communicate without fighting, that was the best outcome. You say it, Qing Lang said gravely. Outside the alleyway, the onlookers could only see their silhouettes and couldn't hear what they were saying. It was only about 3 minutes later. The black shadow slowly put away its scythe, signaling they could pass, and the two looked back. Qing Lang attempted an okay gesture and pointed towards the road ahead before they walked on, and then disappeared from sight. It seems safe enough, though once you step in here, it seems impossible to retreat. Bai Changwei and Muscle Bully also set off following them. Left Hand watched their figures and glanced at the compass on his wrist. It looks like this so-called Pure Land can only be reached through here, and the identity of this black shadow. While debatable, it must be the one guiding us to the Pure Land. Su Buxian, what do you think? Su Qi, what else is there to think? In many dark and narrow alleys in the city, There stand such beings, the only difference being how much clothing they wear. This one seems quite promising. Left Hand helplessly said, "Forget I asked." Su Chi spoke softly. "We'll know when we get there. Speculating blindly will only lead to preconceived notions. Look, it's our turn now." Bai Changwei and Muscle Bully moved a bit faster, walking forward and gradually disappearing at the end of the alleyway. "Let's go." Su Chi strode forward, and Left Hand quickly followed. The black shadow watched them intently, its hoarse voice repeating the previous instructions. "Two questions, can we not lie?" Left Hand pondered the wording. Su Chi looked at the black shadow. "I never lie. But if—" "Notice I only said if. If I did lie, what would happen?" The black shadow's face was expressionless. Its aura suddenly grew more formidable, and the scythe began to emanate a terrifying power. The tiles all around were shaking violently, and the entrances of the alleyway began to close in as if to swallow them. It said nothing, its calm filled with a heavy aura of death. Understood. Lying was a one-way street to death. Su Chi also composed himself, knowing the other wasn't an entity they could contend with. He slowly asked the questions. "What is the thing you fear the most inside your heart? Who is the person you are most grateful for inside your heart?" Left Hand was silent for a moment, glanced at Su Chi and said helplessly, "I'm most afraid of spiders. The person I'm most grateful for is my father." "And you?" The black shadow stared at Su Chi. "The thing I'm most afraid of." Su Chi hesitated for a moment, then said pensively, "Is probably boredom." "Probably? Can't you be certain?" Left Hand saw that the black shadow made no move, and he breathed a sigh of relief. "As for the person I'm most grateful for." Su Chi had no hesitation in his confirmation. "Of course, it's the evil god. He's my biggest benefactor, always providing me with great help." The black shadow calmly sheathed its scythe. "Then you may proceed." Left Hand paused. "Is it really that simple?" They could only walk forward, but upon exiting the alleyway, they didn't see their teammates. Instead, they were slowly engulfed by mist. "What's going on?" Left Hand suddenly startled. "Su Buxian, where are you?" Su Buxian was no longer in sight, and Left Hand's face turned pale at the sight of countless spiders swarming out of the mist ahead. "Damn! So many spiders!" He trembled all over. Just as he thought to turn and run, a voice was calling his name. "That's my father's voice." Left Hand's gaze trembled to see his father looking kindly at him. But in the next instant, his father was devoured by a multitude of spiders, screaming. His eyes were bloodshot, and he let out a low roar. "No!" The black shadow watched this scene, emotionlessly saying, "Overwhelmed by one's greatest fears. Witnessing the death of a loved one. The human heart is mostly so fragile." Chapter 91 Evil God goes online. Su Chi was different from Left Hand. After seeing the faint white fog, he wasn't immediately affected but instead noticed that Left Hand stood still, seemingly trapped in the state of the earlier quad game. Just as he thought to press on and to wake him, then the white fog suddenly increased. Su Chi was then drawn into the illusion realm. He looked around, and he was in an abandoned old city. No one was around. Everywhere were the mottled traces of time, and the slight afterglow cast from the sky enveloped the area with a lonely atmosphere. Su Chi's eyes flickered slightly. "Is it because I mentioned the word boring? So you created all this? But you are mistaken. The boredom I spoke of was philosophical, asking where life begins and where it ends, what the value of a person is in the boundless universe, and in the vast flow of time, how one should leave a mark. True boredom isn't about being alone, but about being unable to prove one's existence in the grand scheme of things." Su Chi said no more, because streams of white fog approached him directly, as if a wave of desolation and loneliness were about to surge into his heart. If understanding is insufficient, then hypnotism will suffice. However, Su Chi's spiritual power was too high, and in the incredibly real darkness, He could still see many question mark, constantly reminding him that this was an illusion realm. It was too damaging to the immersion. Stop bothering. Su Qi shook his head. He could tell that this illusion came from a pollutant of level D or higher, capable of creating illusions, but weak in effect on him. The white fog seemed insulted, since the most feared thing could not achieve the expected effect. Seeing the death of the person you most respect and love right before you, you couldn't possibly remain indifferent. A large amount of white fog began to gather. It seemed to materialize the image of the evil god from the depths of Su Qi's heart. A figure was forming. It exerted all its strength. Finally, the evil god appeared. However, it was only 2 meters tall, with a cute sheep head, and the body was human-like, albeit not quite, but that seemed to be the best it could do. Su Qi consoled. It's all right, being able to replicate this much is already quite impressive. Then he looked at the evil god. And it's quite adorable being so small. The white fog furiously boiled. Looking down on whom? This time, let you feel the sensation of sorrow and pain. Suddenly, a metal fragment appeared around them, piercing directly through the chest of the anthropomorphic evil god. A large amount of blood spurted out. The evil god's body trembled, as if looking to Su Qi for help.
No.
Su Qi cried out in anguish. Evil god! He rushed forward. I'm coming to help you. The white fog trembled excitedly. Help? You can't help. It wanted to engulf the other with the feeling of helplessness. It was about to pull out that metal fragment. But in the next moment, Su Qi had arrived and actively pressed down the freshly pulled out metal fragment. Spurt! The evil god suddenly vomited blood. White fog! It was shocked. So ruthless to your most respected person? Is your heart made of iron? Not only was Su Qi's heart made of iron, but he was also preparing to stab the evil god a few more times. The Black Shadow, who was observing all this with a scythe in hand, also fell silent. It was his first time seeing such a person. It was quite fitting for the lunatics in the Pure Land and a sheep head. But it's not a big problem since it's just an ordinary goat's head, and it's just an illusion, having nothing to do with that being. At that moment, a black shadow shuddered all over, a strange sense of danger rising in his heart. Ah! And Su Qi also realized something was wrong. He looked up at the sheep head above, and was pulsating wildly. Su Qi's eyebrows twitched violently. This scene seemed familiar. It was just like the scene from his first encounter with the evil god. Wait a second. It couldn't be. A bizarre aura suddenly permeated the air. The sheep head, which initially didn't resemble it much at all, began to transform, becoming more ferocious, with runes beginning to emerge. Damn! Su Qi was stunned. Could this abstract illusion actually connect to the evil god's true form? And at the same time, outside, the Black Shadow's eyes trembled even more as it looked toward the illusory evil god. Its previously expressionless face now showed intense fluctuations. It was shocked, terrified, scared. Its entire body was actually trembling frantically. The next moment, the Black Shadow hastily struck out, using a scythe to unleash an astonishing burst of strength, slashing fiercely at the illusion realm where Su Qi was. Boom! The illusion shattered like broken glass, and that strange aura immediately burst forth, recoiling onto the Black Shadow. Tui! The Black Shadow suddenly spat out a cloud of black fog as if it had been severely wounded. Su Qi was forced out of the illusion realm, and he immediately saw the figure holding the scythe in the distance. Its voice hoarse and panting, it gasped heavily, the black fog around its body dissipating greatly, staring intently at Su Qi. Who exactly are you? Are you the high priest of the cultists? Or do you possess an advanced shrine containing that power? Or perhaps have you seen that being yourself? Otherwise, the descent phenomenon wouldn't have occurred. Su Qi could tell that the other party was panicking. But that was okay. He was panicking too. Turns out the evil god had almost truly descended. Su Qi coughed. I don't know what you're talking about. The Black Shadow did not continue to question. and instead turned its hoarse voice toward the horizon. It seems you don't realize where this is. This is Linyuan land. Its voice reached Su Qi's ears, contaminated by a sliver of strength leaked from the abyss, turning into this eerily twisted, semi-collapsed world. The Black Shadow took a deep breath and hoarsely said, "In Linyuan land, anything from the abyss is taboo and most likely to trigger unstable fluctuations. Whatever secrets you hold, such foolish, deadly acts must absolutely not occur a second time." Su Qi was displeased. "The thing is, you were the one asking the questions and it was your illusion. Isn't it a bit improper to push all the blame onto me?" Black Shadow surely was at fault too. After all, as it's a taboo, it was something never mentioned in this world. And even if mentioned, it was only spoken with fear and reverence. That being, who would affectionately call him evil god, as if shouting to a dearly beloved relative. The Black Shadow no longer talked to Su Qi and just wanted to distance itself from this hot potato. The scythe swung again, and everyone's illusion shattered, their faces pale and confused, each looking as though they had awoken from a nightmare, looking at one another baffled. What happened? What was that? The Black Shadow did not answer them, only using the scythe to point towards the distance, a streak of black fog blasting out, seemingly paving the way. "Follow this path, it leads to the Pure Land." Though called the Pure Land, it is actually a city yet to be covered by pollution. However, inside it are nothing but extremely vicious villains. It said coldly, "Once you enter, you are on your own. Take care of yourselves." Chapter 92, Despicable Person. Everyone followed the compass needle toward this so-called Pure Land. Always feels a bit strange. Left Hand had recovered from the illusion from earlier. Bai Chengwei nodded. "Right, I feel the same." Qing Lang pondered. That Black Shadow had always appeared calm and expressionless before. How come he suddenly revealed so much information to us? He even took the initiative to clear the way and point us in the right direction. The tuner added, and his tone carried a hint of apprehension. Unable to make sense of it, everyone could only attribute it to being the necessary guidance after the end of the illusion realm. Only Su Qi saw through it all. Above the Black Shadow's head, the fellow's thoughts had become clear. "It inferred from your previous words and behavior just now that you must have a significant connection with the evil god. It fears you and keeps a respectful distance. That guy knows how to play his cards right." This included doing favors that went with the flow, but those favors came from the evil god, and the beneficiary was Su Qi. It was another day when the evil god played its part. Without any subsequent abnormalities, everyone's pace quickened significantly. "Pure Land City is getting closer," said Qing Lang, looking at the compass on his wrist. By the angle of the compass needle's rotation, one could actually estimate the distance. Now it pointed almost directly ahead. And soon, they saw the so-called Pure Land City. It was surrounded by high city walls. Outside there stood a stele. The characters for Pure Land were inscribed on it. At the same time, a notification box appeared before everyone's eyes. "You have arrived at Pure Land, the uncorrupted city. Main quest second phase completed. Reward. Everyone's item slot and skill bar fully unlocked." Everyone visibly breathed a sigh of relief. Left Hand tugged at the bandage on his left arm. The tuner took a pigeon from his hat and placed it on his shoulder. The muscle bully even pulled out his double-barreled shotgun. Damn. Finally no restrictions. The attribute points that came with levels were nowhere near as important as equipment and skills, which were key to enhancing their combat strength. And at that moment, a striking notification box popped up again. Warning, the final stage of the main quest. Survive until the silent day. Did you all see that? It's just asking us to survive. The muscle bully chuckled, clearly more confident with his equipment and skills. This seems to be underestimating us a bit. Or does it mean the being inside is more dangerous than those oddities outside? Left Hand remembered the words of the Black Shadow. At that moment, A voice slowly rose from not too far away with a hint of humor. They say the super rookies from Zone 9 are of decent quality, but I think that's not necessarily true. Who? Their gazes immediately became wary as they looked over. They saw a young man with red hair standing in the distance, hands in his pockets. You are the Red Blade from the first sequence, recognized by Changwei. Be careful. This guy's swordsmanship is strong. The red-haired young man gestured that his sword was sheathed and not drawn, saying dismissively, "Don't be nervous. I'm not here to be your enemy." Qing Lang squinted his eyes. Which eye of yours sees us as nervous? Or are you saying you alone want to take on all of us? A cocky smile spread across Red Blade's face. Well, that might not be entirely impossible. So arrogant. The muscle bully had already aimed his gun at him. I've said it before. I'm not here to fight. Red Blade clicked his tongue. I'm here to talk about cooperation on behalf of everyone in the first sequence. The tuner stroked the dove's feathers. Why should we cooperate with you? Because if we don't cooperate. His smile gradually faded, and his tone became somewhat sharp. The probability of any of us living until Silent Day doesn't exceed 30%. The damp streets, the pungent smell of blood. They moved like rats, only daring to traverse unnoticed corners, avoiding making any noise. This city is deadlier than you can imagine, teeming with danger everywhere. Red Blade led the way ahead, speaking calmly. Most of the city's residents are various beings that have poured into Pure Land City from the Lost Land, including brutal slaughterers, insane gamblers, and powerful abnormalities. Everyone understood, just like that family of 3 in the mansion before. If they wanted to escape the Lost Land, they'd naturally seek to flood into this Pure Land. So, to avoid overpopulation, every night there is a population purge, an unrestricted free-for-all. Left Hand couldn't help but say, "This is no pure land. It's clearly a slaughterhouse." Red Blade spoke calmly. "But that's the rule, and as long as you kill others, you can get coins. If you accumulate enough coins, you can get a token to enter the inner zone, avoiding participation in the nightly bloodbath. It's just that you can forget about it. The token is extremely difficult to obtain, virtually impossible through normal means." Su Qi, who had been surveying the surroundings, paused for a moment. Extremely difficult. Su Qi glanced at the token in his item slot. It was from the Love, Death Superplayer show, taken from that gambler. It seemed he could use it to enter the inner zone. So Su Qi asked, "By the way, Red Hair, what's in the inner zone?" Red Blade couldn't help but glance at Su Qi. Although he was called Red Blade, shouldn't normal people bloody use the last 2 words? He was a bit annoyed but still said, "The inner zone is actually a huge death casino. Everyone who enters must gamble. So, getting a token doesn't guarantee safety. If you lose the gambling, you either go bankrupt or die there." Su Qi, that sounds truly terrifying. Of course, apart from killing and looting, you can also earn coins through work. Red Blade said in a deep voice, "Everyone in our team is already working to save up coins, to prepare for what's to come." If that's the case, Bai Changwei squinted her eyes and said, "It seems we don't need to cooperate with you then." Red Blade turned to look at the group, letting out a strange laugh. "Do you think we want to? The only reason we want to cooperate with you is that we found out about those cultists, and moreover, those lunatics from Free City are actually making deals with them." At these words, the faces of the group darkened, showing a hint of gravity. Red Blade said no more, casting his gaze forward and stopping his steps. "All right, we've arrived. This is the workplace we found." He pointed to a massive construction site for a statue, where many people, including abnormalities, were busily at work. Building a statue? For whom? Are these madmen planning on worshipping it? You're wrong, this isn't about faith. It's about idolatry. Idolatry? Red Blade spoke lightly. This world is corroded by the power of the abyss. Many people naturally fear and hate it, but cannot resist it, for it's an existence they can never contend with. But recently, someone angered it and seemed to have gotten the upper hand, leading to a huge bounty for their capture, a name that has spread across vast swaths of the world. To them, this is unprecedented, a cause for celebration and madness. So, Red Blade's gaze lingered on the statue before him, speaking softly and with a hint of admiration. They've erected this statue to celebrate that being known as the despicable person. Su Qi, who had been contemplating his next plan, suddenly looked up upon hearing this. Oh? Who are you talking about? Chapter 93. It turns out to be myself. The last time I heard the term despicable person was also the last time. The traveling merchant had mentioned it at the orphanage, and unexpectedly, I heard it again here. And, most importantly, Su Qi realized something. He had a bad feeling and asked again, "Red-haired classmate, may I inquire, who is the entity you speak of?" Red Blade narrowed his eyes slightly. "Don't tell me you don't know? The name is taboo here, the most terrifying being in the abyss, worshipped by countless cultists. The true..." Okay, that's enough. He already knew who it was. It just feels a bit ominous. The evil god had been mentioned repeatedly, far too often. And most importantly, the despicable person they mentioned. Could it possibly be? Su Qi looked up at the statue. Faceless. One could only see short hair, a tall figure, other details ominous, with the right hand holding a long sword, the left a hatchet, and a hunting shotgun slung over the back. Looking at the statue that vaguely exuded a familiar vibe, Su Qi gradually understood everything. At this moment, left hand patted Su Qi on the shoulder. "It seems that you're not well informed. This matter has spread not only through various instance worlds but also throughout paradise." Su Qi glanced at him and said, "Then Mr. Zhua, what can you tell me?" Left hand coughed. "You're being so polite. Let me then satisfy your curiosity. The despicable person has been issued a warrant by that being. Once his presence is detected, then all of its followers must pursue and kill him with all their might. But that's not the end of it. All the major forces, various powerful entities, even some great figures we can't reach, they are all looking for this despicable person because it is said that the one in the abyss has made them an offer that they can't refuse." Su Qi, may I ask how tempting it is? Is it like finding a straight, smooth branch by the roadside that looks like a sword? That kind of tempting? That made left hand fall silent. What kind of temptation is that? He hesitated for 2 seconds, then nodded solemnly. Pretty much. That's bad. Left hand spread his hands. Anyway, I don't know the specifics, but once that despicable person's identity is exposed, he would probably be hunted down by the entire world. He looked at the statue, stroking his chin curiously. I am really curious who this despicable person really is. Even that being itself doesn't know his true face. These people can only construct the sculpture based on the warrant. Left hand said with a sense of wonder, "This despicable person must be an extraordinary and formidable presence." Su Qi patted his shoulder. "Thank you." Thinking he was being thanked for sharing this information, Left hand waved his hand. "No big deal. You would find out this stuff if you asked around more." Su Qi's gaze fell on his own sculpture. TSK. He hadn't thought much of it before, but looking at it now, it was downright imposing. But, having realized he was the despicable person, Su Qi didn't feel much fear. After all, he had provoked the evil god right from the start. The difference between 1 slap and 2 was negligible. However, Su Qi suddenly thought of something. If I reveal myself as the despicable person, what about my reputation? Under the evil god's advertisement, the name of the despicable person had already reverberated through half of Abyssal Paradise. Once admitted, Su Qi could predict just how wildly his reputation value would soar. But at the same time, the consequences he would have to bear were extremely alarming. Qing Lang came over at this moment. He had just gone to gather some information, his expression slightly somber. "Things are exactly as that guy said, and even more dangerous than we imagined." The so-called daily tasks of the Pure Land are filled with dangers at every turn, and a slight misstep could mean death. He had just watched an obese belly supervisor wielding a whip, lashing ferociously at anyone who dared to slack off or make mistakes. A single lash from the whip could crack stones, showcasing its terrifying strength. If we are to take action, it's best to split up. There are many bizarre tasks in the Pure Land. Choose ones that suit your strengths, but be wary, especially of the people from Free City and those cultists. After gaining some understanding, they established a basic strategy. First and foremost was to survive. This place was too dangerous, to earn coins during the day as much as possible to gain advantages for surviving the night. Only by achieving this could they have a chance to compete for those precious hidden resurrection tools. Left Hand looked at Su Chi. What about you, Subuxian? Although there was no explicit grouping, at least during instance entry, the two of them had come all this way together and were relatively familiar with each other. Su Chi pondered for a while. I know English, so I'll see if I can find a job as a tutor. If you manage to find someone willing to learn that stuff, I'll wash my hair standing on my head, Left Hand said, resignedly. I'm planning to go to the other side of the city to see if there's something suitable for me. Physical labor wasn't impossible, but being watched, extorted, whipped, and insulted by such supervisors was something none of the super rookies, each with their own pride, could easily stomach. Everyone, be as careful as possible and strive to enter the inner zone. Also, communicate any news through this tool. Qing Lang took out a stone from his hand. The group dispersed. Su Chi began walking through the city known as Pure Land. The inside of this city had not been introduced before. It was actually just like the Lost Land, pieced together from various fragments, only it didn't twist and was more stable. The first few steps, still a garbage dump, then a creepy school appeared, followed by dilapidated cottages with an ancient well. Every place here has its own bizarre story, and some of them even had tasks manifesting in blood, offering coins. In this city, coins were not ordinary currency, but carried the concentrated form of abnormality, the most important thing in Pure Land. Abnormalities could use it to become stronger, and pollutants could also enhance their abilities through it. 20 coins would be enough to attract the covetousness of others, sparking conflicts and fights over possession. With 50 coins, you could borrow some strength. Of course, you had to negotiate the price, and different strengths required different quantities of coins. 100 coins would allow you to trade with the twisted beings of the city. Here you could gain sanctuary, making you safer during the night's cleansing mission. And for a token that grants access to the inner zone, you needed 500 coins. I don't need a token, but most tasks start at 5 coins, and they seem pretty troublesome. They take too much time. Right now, Su Chi was looking for a quick fix. After wandering around for a while, he saw a car wash. A black sedan was parked there, its body covered in flesh and blood as if it had run over numerous people, looking extremely eerie and unsettling. And it also carried a scent of pollution. And at the front of the car wash, there was a blood-written sign. Cleansing it will earn you 2 coins. Not bad. Su Chi eyed the car and walked straight towards it. Chapter 94, Is it clean or not? Su Chi's task was also quite simple. Turn on the water valve and aim it for rinsing, and get close to clean up the bloodstains. The haunted vehicle polluted by abnormity was not so easy to wash. It was just like a caveman taking a bath in a large bathhouse, with all sorts of bloody, indistinct ghostly faces emerging on the windows, constantly emitting shrieks, dead noising. Su Chi's spiritual power was too high. The impact on himself was almost nothing, but it was rather too noisy. It seemed to realize that this tactic was useless. Swoosh! The black car's windshield wipers suddenly jerked into motion, blades coming at Su Chi's face with extreme speed. There's also physical attack? Su Chi looked away in surprise, dodging. Crack! The blades buried themselves into the wooden rack beside him. But it wasn't over yet. This was a dangerous pollutant. It had naturally killed many people, and it was filled with deadly threats everywhere. The black car didn't want to let go of Su Chi that easily. It opened its hood, revealing an engine made from intertwining blood vessels. The car suddenly started, rumbling loudly, but the sound came from the blood vessel engine, as though it was roaring, and just at that moment, Su Chi gently turned off the water valve and took off his gloves, reaching into his pocket. Then, he directly pulled out a silver-white sledgehammer from his pocket, staring at the black car. You just won't stop, will you? The black car quivered. The next instant, boom! The tremendous slam made the whole black car sink, kicking up dust from beneath it, and still it wasn't done. The second hammer fell with another thunderous smash. Bang, bang, bang. The successive heavy blows changed the black car's terrified shrieks into the creaking and screeching of metal friction. Around half a minute later, Su Chi took a breath, looking at the black car, now with completely shattered windows, a C-shaped car door, and a hood broken and on its last breath. He slowly retracted the hammer, looking toward the dim shadows inside the car wash. Boss, the job's done. Time to pay up. Oh. The car wash sign slowly revealed a line of ellipses, then reminded with bloody words. You smashed it. Su Chi? ? No, this is included in the car wash and repair. Besides, no matter what it looks like now. Su Chi looked at the black car with justified arrogance. You just say whether it's clean or not. The car wash eventually gave in, condensing 2 coins to give to Su Chi because it felt that he had a point. Black car. It became even weaker than before, as if the strange power of these 2 coins had come from within it. Su Chi looked at the 2 coins. Contains strange powers, but it seems to have removed the polluted part. He pocketed them. At that moment, the car wash sign once again had blood words emerge. This vehicle has an owner. It belongs to an abnormality from the inner zone. Your actions will enrage it. Is that so? That's not good. Su Chi mused. In that case, I'll leave it a note. Normally, if someone damages another's car, a person of quality would leave information, taking responsibility. SSSSS. Su Chi used the 100-man slaughter blade to carve words into the body of the black car, creating a grating sound. Sorry, I accidentally scratched your car. That was an accident? And you call this a scratch? The car wash sign swayed slightly, seemingly in shock. And the way you left a message was way over the top. Anyway, feelings of guilt have made me restless. Su Chi scribbled from the front to the end of the car. I hope that after you see this message, you would contact me. Signature. Nameless King. Huh? At least write down your own name. Su Chi sheathed the 100-man slaughter blade. Farewell, boss. The cold wind on the street buffeted the car wash sign, which made a decision against its better judgment. Next car, try to attract a normal person. Su Chi clutched 2 coins, no longer paying attention to any of the surrounding aberrant tasks, now that he had ample funds. The place he was heading to went without saying. The massive casino in the inner zone, bustling with people. All sorts of loud noises were shouting out. The atmosphere was extremely fervent, but also insane. Yoon Jantian lowered the brim of his hat. Bro, we're almost out of coins. The figure beside him was the same man who had carried the sword before, his expression stony. How many are left? Together, only 20. The man sighed softly. The first sequence team had 7 members, and they were lucky at the start, entering Pure Land City ahead of time. After getting to know the rules of Pure Land City, all 7 began frantically taking on tasks, earning coins, and finally pooled together 1,100 coins, giving them to him and Yoon Jantian in exchange for tokens to enter the inner zone. Each holding 50 coins, they began betting, gambling. But how could they outplay these frenzied gamblers? They had their wins and losses, but they lost more than they won, and there was also the risk of losing their lives. Are you two going to gamble or not? If not, then get lost, an adjacent gambler said impatiently. The man was not displeased by the gambler's rude attitude, and he stood up. In this casino, everything revolved around gambling. If a conflict arose and they wanted to fight, there was a designated area for that. Others were also eager to place bets. Yoon Jantian looked at the mere 20 coins left. Brother, what should we do? Maybe we should retreat for now. In the casino, tokens allowed entry, but for every hour spent there, 10 coins would be deducted automatically. If you ran out of coins, you'd be sent to fight for your life on the stage to earn starter funds, and the same amount of coins was required to leave. If they continued to stay, their coins would quickly deplete, and once they hit 0, they would not be able to leave, only being forced to join the fight for their life. The man sighed, "Let's pull out." This casino was no place for ordinary people, filled with scammers and schemers betting their lives. They had underestimated it. They couldn't beat it, not at all. And at that moment, the casino doors were thrown open, and a figure strode in leisurely. Yoon Jantian suddenly froze, gazing at the newcomer. He almost thought he was seeing things. The black-robed man guarding the door squinted at the young man. "Why use so much force with the door, token? Hold on, let me find it." The young man rummaged and handed over the somewhat tarnished token. "This is it, right?" The black-robed man inspected the crack on it. Clearly wasn't brand new, but as long as it was authentic, that's all that mattered. "Go on in." "All right." The young man walked in, his gaze leisurely surveying everything in the casino. "What's wrong?" Now the man noticed the change in Yoon Jantian's expression and followed his gaze to the young man. "Do you know him?" Yoon Jantian came back to his senses, nodded. "That's Su Buxian, the one I mentioned before, the one who knows Night Guardian." Upon mentioning Night Guardian, the man paused in recognition, observing the young man. "Then you better call out to him. He's probably carrying his whole team's chips." "But," he sighed, "the waters here are too deep, and he might not be able to handle it as a newcomer." Chapter 95. I bet on a bullet jam. They were examples. The man had the big picture in mind, and since the two forces had already cooperated, he naturally wouldn't stand by and watch the other side walk into a fire pit and lose everything. Understood. Yoon Jantian was ready to go over and stop Su Qi. But before he could speak, he saw Su Qi's eyes suddenly light up as if he had found something interesting, and he walked straight towards an area bustling with people. What is he going to do? The man paused slightly. "I really don't know." Yoon Jantian thought he had a certain understanding of Su Qi, although their contact time in the last team instance was not long. But he knew this player's style of action was very different and could not be inferred by common sense. "But I always feel something is going to happen, and at this very moment." At a table, a large number of gamblers gathered around, excitedly shouting. This was the Crazy Death Roulette. The rules were extremely simple. A revolver on the table capable of loading 6 bullets. You just had to load a different number of bullets, aim at your own head, and fire. If you survived, you would get coins. Note that both the revolver and bullets were no ordinary items, powerful enough to kill abnormalities. "How many bullets do you want?" the referee asked calmly, looking at the person who had sat down. "1," the person said, quivering. "1? Go back and eat shit. If you're so afraid of dying, don't play." The other gambler scoffed and directly drove him away. Another gambler, with a hint of madness in his eyes, sat down clenching his teeth. "I'll play. I want 3. "Okay." The referee accepted and began to load. 3 live rounds, 3 blanks. Whether you were killed or survived was all down to luck. But unfortunately, he didn't have the luck to survive. Bang! A loud gunshot suddenly exploded. A bullet carrying extraordinary strength went straight through his head, killing him. The referee coldly watched this and gestured for others to come and clean up. The blood on the table, layer upon layer, had long since seeped in, filled with a bloody smell that deterred people from getting close. "Next," the referee said calmly. "I remind you, if it's fewer than 3 bullets, don't participate. For each additional bullet, the stakes double. If someone dares 5 bullets, I can make an exception and triple the stakes." The gamblers were crazy but still rational. For 3 bullets, the odds were already even. 5 bullets were sheer suicide. And then Su Qi's voice rang out. "That, I seem to have heard something about tripling?" The gamblers turned to look and saw a young man fondling 2 coins, standing in front of the table with a faint smile looking at them. "You want 5 bullets?" The referee squinted. He noticed that Su Chi had only 2 coins. It seemed he was at the end of his rope. Tsk, tsk, tsk. "The minimum bet for each betting table is 5 coins, but if you want 5 bullets, I can make an exception and let you play once." "Is that so?" Under everyone's gaze, Su Chi pondered for a moment before speaking. "What if I want 6? Everyone?" Then they collectively scoffed, unaffected by his words, cursing and muttering. "6. Seems like he's here to cause trouble. Get him out. He. I think he's seeking death. Let's indulge him." With their various remarks and sarcastic laughter. In the end, if you don't sit at the table, all the talking is just nonsense. But at this time, Su Chi ignored the other people's noise and looked at the referee. "If I go for 6 bullets, what are the odds?" The referee squinted his eyes. He had been here for many years, and this was the first time someone came up to challenge with 6 bullets, which meant no blanks, every shot was live. Pure suicide. However, it wasn't his problem whether the other party was courting death or not. The referee said calmly, "If you dare, 6 bullets, I can increase your stakes by hundreds of times. How about that?" The other party hadn't sat down yet. Maybe they were just talking big. And even if they did sit down with 6 bullets, he thought they could invite the next person rather quickly. "So be clear, how much are the odds?" Su Chi looked at his opponent. 300 times. "Good." Su Chi nonchalantly extended his hand and placed the 2 coins he had been fiddling with for a while onto the betting area. "I'll take 6. Su Chi paused. "I'm betting on a bullet jam." Instantly, everyone fell into a silence as still as death. The referee was also stunned. "He's gone mad." The referee slowly came back to his senses, his gaze somewhat chilly. "You're not joking?" Su Chi gently pulled out a chair. The screeching sound of it dragging was somewhat grating as he nonchalantly sat down. "I never joke. Madman. An absolute madman." The other gamblers were even more excited, their expressions manic. "I want to bet all my money on his death. Betting on a bullet jam. That's a first in many years of death roulette." They relished the thrill. "Hold on." Su Chi looked at the referee. "I can still raise the bet, right?" The referee nodded. "But, do you have any more coins?" "I can borrow, can't I?" Su Chi turned to look at Yun Jiantian and the man who were about to come over. "Brother Yun, quick, lend me some money." Yun Jiantian was watching the commotion from a distance, not yet knowing what had happened, and fell silent upon hearing the call for a loan. Your first sentence upon seeing someone is asking to borrow money. Couldn't you at least exchange pleasantries? Would a long time no see kill you? He suddenly didn't feel like going over. The man at this moment hesitated, and after a moment of contemplation, he said softly, "Lend it to him. Give him all 20 coins. Eh?" Yun Jiantian was stunned. "He's playing Russian roulette. The higher the stake, the greater the potential return. If we lose, we'll just go to the life and death arena." The man had thought it through. Betting wasn't their forte. Ultimately, they had to rely on strength. Yun Jiantian nodded. After walking over, he handed 20 coins to Su Chi. "This is all we've got." Su Chi took them. "Thanks. I'll give you 1% of the winnings." Yun Jiantian? That's too much. He looked at the other gamblers around him and noticed something abnormal, whispering, "Why do other people look at us weirdly? It's as if..." Yun Jiantian held back. "Like they're looking at idiots." The man's brows furrowed slightly. He had also noticed this and couldn't help but ask, "By the way, how many bullets did you bet on? It wouldn't be 5, would it?" Yun Jiantian felt a tremor in his heart. "A 1 in 6 chance? Brother Su, aren't you being a bit reckless?" At that moment, the referee's expression was calm. He filled the revolver with bullets etched with runes, reset it, and slid it into place. The clear mechanical sound of rotation assured him the revolver was in perfect condition, impossible to malfunction. "All 6 bullets have been loaded." He handed them to Su Qi. Please. Whether it was Yun Zhantian or the man, their expressions were completely stunned at this moment. Yun Zhantian was incredibly shocked. His trembling voice stuck in his throat. How much? Chapter 96. Brother Su is still Brother Su. How many? Yun Zhantian's eyes widened. 6. His voice was almost a shout. He finally understood why the group of gamblers around him were staring at them with a schadenfreude look as if they were fools. Brother Su. Yun Zhantian pressed on his shoulder, shaking him wildly. You're crazy. Su Qi, being shaken, calmly said, Just don't spit on my face. Yun Zhantian. He let go of Su Qi weakly, ignoring the surrounding eyes, and looked at the referee. Can I get those 20 coins back? No, you can't. The referee replied coldly and mercilessly. The man took a deep breath, already a bit confused. As the team leader of the super rookies of the first sequence, he always acted conservatively and preferred conservative strategies. He had a strong sense of the bigger picture. Even the wild red blade would listen to him. This was the first time he had seen such a wild guy. The man looked at the referee. If he bets on 6, how can he win? The referee calmly said. He said it himself, betting on the gun jamming. The man silently looked at Su Qi, who responded with a smile. Other gamblers were also placing bets, happily stacking up a pile of chips, investing at least 1,000. On Su Qi's side of the table, there were only a simple 22 coins. For these gamblers, it didn't matter how much they earned at this moment. They just wanted to see blood and have a sense of participation, to enjoy the feeling of winning. Su Qi gently picked up the gun, and the referee gave a signal. The old lady responsible for cleaning up the corpses and bloodstains was already standing nearby. She too was abnormal, her hair messy, wearing a mask, and her apron all splattered with blood. Holding a mop in her hand, her gaze was cold as she looked at Su Qi. Seemed to say, remember to fall forward, don't make my mopping harder. Anyone else want to place bets? Su Qi smiled, pointing the revolver at his own temple. In the gambler's den, there are no always-win generals unless they cheat, and once caught cheating, in other ordinary gamblers' dens it might just be cutting a finger or a hand, but here, it would lead to extremely severe consequences. After all, apart from the players, many abnormalities also possess some special abilities, but people dare not use them. Because abilities would be detected by existences with higher spiritual power than oneself, and player skills are the same, once detected, one can imagine the outcome. However, what does this have to do with Su Qi, who has over 400 spiritual power? He lightly pressed his finger on the trigger. The next moment, bang! The sound of the bullet firing suddenly erupted. The crowd's eyes brightened, but then, they didn't see the bloody scene of a headshot. Their expressions froze, looking at the unharmed Su Qi, while the revolver's trigger hadn't been pulled yet. What was that just now? Ventriloquism. Su Qi once again imitated a few sounds. Although his mouth barely moved, it produced extremely realistic bang 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 sounds. The intense gunshots frightened a gambler passing by, who almost ducked down yelling about a sniper. Su Qi's mouth curled up slightly. How's that? Sounds like the real thing, right? The crowd. They roared in unison. Stop playing with that crappy ventriloquism. Hurry up and shoot. Damn it. Su Qi shook his head, criticizing. Rushing will only harm you guys. Damn. I really want to punch him. Hold it back. We can't just start fighting here. Please just shoot. I can't stand it anymore with my OCD. The man and Yun Zhantian both silently watched Su Qi and the noisy crowd of gamblers. They looked at each other. How come everything feels completely different? After they entered this gambler's den, they proceeded step by step very cautiously. This guy came in and became the focus of attention, feeling like he completely grasped everyone's emotions. Su Qi clicked his tongue. His finger again rested on the trigger. Just then, wait, Su Qi suddenly said, can I write a will first? Even the referee couldn't hold back any longer. He shouted, hurry up. 10 seconds. If you don't shoot in 10 seconds, I'll do it for you. If it weren't for him being the referee, he would have been the first to punch this guy. Su Qi, feeling helpless, shrugged. All right then. This time, without further delaying, he slightly withdrew his finger and pulled the trigger. Under the intense gaze of the crowd, the hammer of the revolver suddenly struck towards the back of the bullet. Click! The revolver made a clear sound of mechanical jamming, and the hammer got stuck right between the bullets. All the gamblers by the table stared dumbfoundedly at this sight, falling into a deadly silent hush. The referee, Yun Zhantian, and the man were also stunned on the spot. Su Qi slowly put down the revolver, displaying a calm smile. You see, it really did jam. At that moment, the gamblers exploded. Impossible! He's cheating. That pistol must have been faulty from the start. Referee, are you in cahoots with this guy? Bang! The referee, now holding the revolver, coldly fired a shot. The gambler who had just spoken disrespectfully watched his own hat being pierced, his body trembling, not daring to speak another word. The referee looked at the revolver in his hand, deeply looked at Su Qi, and after exhaling, announced, "The gun is fine. Congratulations. You've won 300 times your original chips, and the coins you gambled, 1235 in total. Regardless of how he did it, as long as it wasn't seen by him, it counted as his win." Yun Zhantian and the man watched dumbfounded as a large number of coins were brought over. How many were there? Nearly 8,000 coins? When they entered, they only had damn 200 coins combined, and had lost down to 1/10. Chapter 97. Su Qi, however, didn't bag them right away. He even had an idea and pointed at the pile of coins. Can I go again? 6 coins for 300 times the payout. The referee was silent. 300 times? Why don't we just hand over the entire casino to you? He promptly hung a no more bet sign on the table and left. TCH, running away already. Su Qi felt somewhat dissatisfied. He had dragged out the time long enough, just in time for the artificial team's counterattack cooldown to end. With a bit of luck, he could have continued. However, even if the other party's spiritual power wasn't as high as his own and couldn't detect his skill, it was only natural they knew he had some tricks up his sleeve, so fleeing was the normal reaction. What casino wouldn't run away? Come. Su Qi tossed a bag to Yun Zhantian. This is too much, Yun Zhantian said, overwhelmed by the hefty bag. We only gambled 20 coins. Su Qi laughed and pulled out a piece of paper. No problem. I never intended to give it away for free. You can take the extra and write an IOU. 1 coin for 100 game coins each, considering your first sequence is wealthy. Yun Zhantian fell into a daze, sensing something was off, but somehow getting wrapped up in it. He ended up signing under Su Qi's persuasive words. The man, watching Yun Zhantian being manipulated, didn't stop him. Instead, he agreed with Su Qi's approach, as after all, they were in a cooperative relationship. But when Yun Zhantian, holding the bag with excitement and joy, said to him, "Brother, we're rich now," at that moment, the man's feelings were mixed and shocked. You're a key seed among super rookies. You're this happy over a bag of instance coins. He once thought invincible strength was everything. Now he realized he was wrong. Dang, dang, dang. At that moment, night had fallen, and bells rang suddenly from the outside. The man snapped back to reality, looking outside with a grave expression. It has begun. Yun Zhantian gripped the money bag, slightly stunned, his expression also becoming somber. Population purge plan. The slaughter had started. So, what do you want to do? Su Qi looked outside. Yun Zhantian hesitated. The man softly said, we can't go out yet because the cultists and Free City have accumulated quite an advantage. Aside from some pollutant tools, they even hired some abnormalities to work for them. We need to earn more coins, and the fastest place is here. In this pure land city, coins could make ghosts grind mills. This wasn't a riddle or a metaphor, because It really could make ghosts grind mills. Su Chi watched a drowned ghost standing pale by the dice table, spitting out water while fervently shouting, "Big! Big! In a casino you find all sorts. What's never lacking are oddities, abnormalities, and strange tales." The man sighed helplessly. "Unfortunately, it seems we only have a losing hand." "In the spirit of cooperation," Su Chi smiled, "let me give you some advice. Look over there." Following Su Chi's gesture, they saw the life and death arena where 10 gamblers were locked in, but the fight hadn't started yet, as some time was given for the surrounding gamblers to place their bets. The most favored was a man wearing a metal mask, massive like a bull and 2 meters tall, roaring and spitting blood. And the least favored was a dazed-looking humanoid rabbit with erect ears, lifeless eyes staring ahead, wearing a red striped prison uniform with the number 04 on it. The bets on it were fewest and the odds were extremely high. "Bet all your coins on it." Both Yun Jiantian and the man stared at the prison uniform rabbit but couldn't see anything special after a long look. "All right." Yun Jiantian didn't hesitate. He nodded. Since these coins were given to them by Su Chi, he naturally believed in Su Chi. He suddenly remembered something and quickly turned to the man next to him. "Brother, what do you think?" "I think you have already unwittingly fallen for it." The man rubbed his brow helplessly. "I have no objections." Su Chi then threw another bag to Yun Jiantian. Yun Jiantian was startled. "I have enough already, no need for so much." Su Chi looked at him. "This is my share. You help me bet on that rabbit too." Oh. Yun Jiantian nodded. "No problem, Brother Su. Leave it to me." The man watched Yun Jiantian walk away. He looked at Su Chi. "Interested in joining our first sequence?" Su Chi didn't expect the other party to actually try to recruit him. He shook his head with a smile. "You got one thing wrong. I'm a freedom swing person, and I even have my own organization now." The man was stunned. Other than Zone 9, Free City, and Sequence City, were there any other major forces? Of course, he wouldn't think Su Chi was a cultist. The Investigation Bureau would definitely have screened that. "So what are you going to do now?" Su Chi chuckled. "Just keep looking around for something fun. It looks like there's a cricket fighting event over there." The man's gaze complicatedly followed Su Chi as he walked away. "You're really just here for fun, right? Where's your team?" Team. Right at this moment, they had just finished a half-day's work and were cautiously meeting up on the streets. "Where's Su Buxian?" Left Hand, watching as night fell, spoke with some gravity. "He couldn't have been killed already, could he? He hasn't replied to our messages. Like a group chat made of stones, they could contact each other." "I don't know." Qing Lang shook his head. "But I just saw those guys from Free City." His expression was grave. "I didn't dare get too close. They've indeed joined forces with the cultists, and there are even lots of abnormal creatures following them. We're in trouble." Bai Qiangwei looked at the night sky. "Today's troubles are even worse. We absolutely can't reveal ourselves. If those cultists discover our tracks, they'll definitely pursue us with all their might." The tuner said in a deep voice, "Let's see how many coins we've earned first. 173. 198. 245. As they each reported their half-day's work and tallied up, "Nice! We've got 1,000 coins now. What's next? Let's make a deal with the Land of Strange Tales. We need to quickly expand our advantage. Tonight is very dangerous." The sounds of combat were already reaching their ears. They had to be careful not just of the cultists but also the dangerously enraged residents of Pure Land City. "Where the heck is Su Buxian?" Left Hand wondered angrily. "He couldn't have gotten trapped in some land of strange tales and can't reply to messages, could he?" They couldn't help but worry. If they were down one player, the coming struggle would naturally lose fighting strength. And at that moment, the stone flickered faintly. "He's replied." Everyone was startled and looked at the message. "I am fine, don't worry." "Well, screw you then," Left Hand cursed. "Does that jerk not have any sense of teamwork at all? We were here worried about his safety. Forget it. Forget it. Muscle Bully pressed down on the angry left hand. I thought I had a short temper, but you're even more explosive than I am. Left hand. Try sticking with him from start to finish. Since he said that, let's not be too worried and focus on the task at hand. The tuner was calmer. He watched the fleeting figures in the distance. Besides, killing other abnormal creatures can also earn us coins. We need to plan properly. The perspective shifts back to the casino. Su Chi had spent 50 coins on a cola and another 50 on some snacks. Though expensive, these items could restore physical strength. Of course, he purely felt like giving it a try. Now, he sat down at the cricket fighting table. Though they called it cricket fighting, it was actually guardian beast battles. The pets on the sand table, each with sharp teeth and bigger than a fist, were dangerous pollutants. Where's your pet? The referee stared at Su Chi. Oh, just a moment. Su Chi reached out, and the liquid metal slowly coalesced. This is my pet, Xiao Chong. All the betting guardian beast gamblers fell silent, staring at the irregularly shaped oval object. They couldn't help but burst out angrily. Isn't that just a freaking rock? Chapter 98 Silent Day is coming early. Question mark. Su Chi looked at them strangely. You people are quite short-sighted. This is obviously my beloved pet, Xiao Chong. You don't believe me? Su Chi shouted in a low voice. Xiao Chong, lie down. The rock lay there steadfastly. Xiao Chong, don't move. The rock didn't move a muscle. The crowd watched silently as Su Chi played gleefully, thinking this guy must be crazy. Xiao Chong, stand up. Some gamblers couldn't help but look over. They wanted to see how a rock could stand up. But Su Chi paused. Oh, I forgot. Xiao Chong doesn't have legs. He can't stand up. Damn. Is that really the reason it can't stand up? Referee. Look at him. Everyone looked at the referee, and the referee looked at the rules, slowly saying, there's no restriction on pets. A rock can participate too. Su Chi corrected him. Say it again. It's not a rock. It has a name, called Xiao Chong. The surrounding gamblers swore under their breath. Can we start now? I can't wait to kick him and his rock out of here. The referee didn't hesitate any longer. He declared the start. Everyone stretched out their hand, and all sorts of abnormal pets crawled out from their sleeves. They sneered cruelly. Let's throw that rock out first. Su Chi calmly held the rock, caressing its surface as if truly communicating with it. Next up, Xiao Chong. It's all on you. Then, he threw the rock with all his might. Go, use dive attack. The burst of strength smashed an iron-armored, sharp-toothed bug to pieces. The pet owner's gambler turned pale. What are you doing? Referee. The referee's eyelid twitched, just about to speak. But Su Chi merely smiled lightly, slowly uttering the chilling words, Xiao Chong, kill. That rock actually changed form following his command. Puff, puff, puff. Suddenly, numerous dense silver-white metal spikes burst forth. They pierced through all the surrounding abnormal pets without resistance. Everyone's eyes widened in fear at the dense spikes in the sandbox. What is this thing? This is Xiao Chong, Su Chi reminded coldly. D-238 liquid metal, once separated from his body, couldn't move by itself, but it could change shape at will. These spikes might not be very powerful, but they were effective for scaring these little critters, either hitting them with an AoE or launching a surprise attack at close range. At that moment, Su Chi slowly reached out and took it back, wiping off the blood stains, saying, You worked hard, Rock. Everyone, now you know its name is Rock. Su Chi ignored them, looking towards the referee. My Xiao Chong one, right? The referee was silent, unsure of how to respond, as it did seem like no rules were broken. They had always assumed only living creatures would participate. Who would have thought someone would bring a rock and wreak havoc? Just then, the referee's expression paused, as if someone was whispering in his ear. He took a deep breath, looking at Su Chi. Rules now amended. Only living beings may participate. You broke the rules, and the chips you just bet have been confiscated. property of the casino now. Su Chi hadn't reacted yet, but the other gamblers already cried out in confusion. Why? Do we also lose our share? Your mother's kiss. Isn't this going overboard? The referee's cold gaze fixed on them. These are the rules. If you have complaints, you can go feedback to the person who set the rules. The gamblers were furious, yet dared not say more. The very existence who established and dictated the casino's rules was beyond their reach, too powerful for them to touch. Do you have any complaints? The referee looked coldly at Su Chi. Su Chi paused slightly, not showing annoyance, but muttered, "Amend the rules on a whim? Forcibly confiscating my chips? Does my opinion even matter? But, the guy behind you, could he really amend the entire casino's rules?" Su Chi casually stood up, taking his remaining coins and left the place. The referee squinted, a voice whispering in his ear. Find several referees with high spiritual power to watch him. Stare him down. The moment you see him using his abilities, strike immediately. Also, don't let those rules get out just now. If that superior learns I arbitrarily altered his set rules, I'm done for. It seems this presence wasn't the casino owner. The mention of that superior carried a deep sense of dread and fear, while Su Chi had already noticed many eyes were on him. Unperturbed, he continued to participate in the surrounding betting games. Honestly, Death Roulette and this fighting pet beast still posed some challenge, as they relied on skills for wagering, but other games like poker, guessing big or small, those were downright easy. Plus, there was no way they could be detected. But no matter, after all, they had struck first. Their shamelessness was even greater than his. After Su Chi won 3 rounds consecutively, the referee reached out to stop the betting at that table, then fixed his gaze on him. Your name is Su Buxian, right? Su Chi smiled faintly. What's up? You want me to sign something for you? The referee squinted, announcing coldly, Su Buxian, you've been banned from all betting games. ? Su Chi's eyebrows raised slightly. Why? There's no why. The referee offered no explanation. The person behind him was cursing them for being useless, completely failing to see how Su Chi had cheated. He didn't believe in mere luck. Moreover, there was no real fairness here. Many aspects were manipulated by him. As a temporary casino manager, he aimed to squeeze every last coin from these foolish gamblers. Chapter 99. How could I have been outmaneuvered by that guy? And I even sent someone to cheat behind the scenes and still couldn't win. He must be up to something. Su Chi clicked his tongue and didn't say a word. He left the gambling table, didn't even take the chips, because he felt it was necessary to do something about it. Half an hour later, Yun Jiantian was searching for Su Chi alone. His expression was startled, but he quickly located Su Chi. He found that Su Chi wasn't participating in any gambling games, sitting in front of a couch, but he was surrounded by all sorts of gamblers who seemed extremely excited. Brother Su Buxian, you're amazing. You guessed it right again. Get the hell away from me. You're not fit to call Brother Su by name. Brother Su, come on. Tell us how to play this round. Yun Jiantian was stunned as he watched all the gamblers swarm around him. How did it feel like Su Chi had already become one of them? This was only half an hour. What did he do while he and the man were discussing plans? Afterward, Su Chi also saw Yun Jiantian and smiled faintly. Gentlemen, go ahead and play. I'll join you later. As he stood up, he also noticed many referees with ashen faces. Ignoring their gazes, Su Chi strode toward Yun Jiantian, who handed him a large bag, saying, Brother Su, sorry for being a bit late. This is yours, a total of over 10,000 coins. Yun Jiantian and his team had made a fortune too. For them, this gave them an even greater advantage over the group of enemies they were about to face. The odds were pretty good. How's that rabbit? That prison uniform rabbit seemed dumb and speechless, but the moment anyone provoked it, it would suddenly burst with amazing strength. Those gamblers were easily dealt with. But how did you know it was so powerful, Brother Su? Experience. Su Chi said lightly, It's all experience. The more inconspicuous something seems, the more terrifying it usually becomes when it bursts force. He was also referring to Brother Cat and Brother Haixing. He didn't know how the two of them were doing now. Su Qi didn't see the man. What about the other one? Yun Zhantian's expression grew a bit more solemn. Captain left 5 minutes ago. The situation outside is very perilous. The cultists and the folks from Free City are rampaging through the town. He has already gone to support with the coins, and he also told me to remind you. Yun Zhantian's voice became heavy. According to our teammates' information, many powerful abnormalities have sensed something ominous. Silent Day seems to be approaching. It might happen tomorrow during the day. Su Qi's eyes revealed a bit of surprise. So soon? It's just the first night. Yun Zhantian nodded. The abnormalities relayed that it might be because of a strong pollution power that burst in the Lost Land earlier, triggering a series of events and causing Silent Day to come earlier. Su Qi. This sounded all too familiar. Yun Zhantian's expression carried a bit of worry. In any case, everything has happened too quickly, and we are still at a great disadvantage. Although the unexpected always comes faster than planned, we won't just stand by. We still have a chance. We must push forward tonight, quickly converting our chips into fighting power and get ready for battle. After realizing he might be the chief culprit, Su Qi wasn't the slightest bit flustered, giving some coins as compensation. Then go for it and take this bag of mine to Left Hand and the rest. Brother Su, aren't you going to join your teammates? Yun Zhantian was a little surprised. We might be fighting the final battle tomorrow during the day. Shouldn't you be with your team, discussing plans and strategic deployment? Su Qi blinked. You're right, but Abyssal Paradise is a real-time strategy game. Question mark. They handle the strategy. I handle real-time. Yun Zhantian. He was suddenly bumped into by an anomaly with bulging muscles and carrying a giant axe, who narrowed his eyes. Move aside, you're in my way. Yun Zhantian's expression became serious. The anomaly was strong. He didn't want any complications and was about to move aside. Then the abnormality suddenly saw Su Qi. It was taken aback. Brother Su. Yun Zhantian almost bugged out his eyes. Bro, Brother Su. You know him? 20 minutes ago, with nothing left to lose, I gave it a way out, said Su Qi indifferently. The giant axe anomaly looked at Su Qi with admiring eyes. Brother Su, so you two know each other? Huh? Sorry, my mistake just now. It carried the giant axe and clasped its huge hands together, bowing slightly to Yun Zhantian as an apology. Yun Zhantian was at a loss. He muttered, It's okay. It's okay. Watching the giant axe abnormality walk away, Yun Zhantian exhaled. Anyway, I'll take my leave first. Brother Su, be careful. Go ahead. Su Qi watched the other party hurry off, then checked the messages from his teammates. The situation outside had indeed become dangerous. The alliance between the cultists and the Free City had exceeded everyone's expectations, and they were hunting them throughout the city, the cultists seeming desperate to obtain that resurrection tool. After replying to a few messages, he stored the stone into his item slot. Su Qi walked back into the fray with a faint smile. Gentlemen, let's continue. The crowd of gamblers erupted in cheers. Meanwhile, at the back of the casino, someone's face was grim to the extreme. The key issue was, they had already used all kinds of methods to restrain that damn guy, and yet he still refused to give up, and now wasn't a good time to act. The guy's reputation was soaring among those foolish gamblers. He felt a hint of unease. Look, this is my knife. The black-robed man, looking at his knife, spoke as if consulting an old friend. Do you feel like it's missing something? The one he was speaking to was an abnormality with a terrified expression. It wanted to run away. It wanted to flee from in front of this man. But the next moment, the abnormality trembled all over. A knife pierced through its neck from behind, with the blade emerging from its throat. It couldn't make a sound, but the pain and terror caused it to shake uncontrollably. Snap! Its body was split in two, and a large amount of blood gushed out. The black-robed man said lightly, "It seems much more vivid with your blood added to it." From afar, a figure watched this scene with a smile. Worthy of being the leader of the cultists. Even killing an abnormality has to have a bit of a sinister feel to it, not straightforward at all. The black-robed man calmly looked towards this figure. "Have you found those people?" The figure took out a cigarette and lit it, smiling. "Found them, but not completely." The black-robed man stared at him coldly. "Don't look me in the eye like that." The figure shrugged. "Those guys are all extremely cunning. Although we occasionally catch a glimpse, they move very quickly. Don't underestimate them. These are two teams of superstar newcomers." Patterns materialized on the black-robed man, and a black mist spread. "Then you lot from the Free City are just wasting my time. Don't get excited." The figure also seemed to sense danger, showing a touch of wariness, but still said with a smile, "After all, the Silent Day seems to have moved up. They won't be causing much of a stir." The black-robed man looked at him indifferently. "If you want to survive, if you want to benefit, then you must play your part. Otherwise, none of you will get away either." "Of course, we understand." The figure watched as the black-robed man gradually disappeared on the spot. He reined in his smile, took a deep drag from the cigarette. The Mars suddenly brightened, and, in less than 10 seconds, the cigarette burned out. He mused amidst the curling smoke. "I didn't expect these cultists to prepare something so outrageous for this Silent Day." He laughed again. "But that's fine, it proves I was right to choose to cooperate with the cultists. Although I don't know why they want that resurrection tool so badly, it doesn't matter. All this talk of an evil god, recovery, destruction. The people of the Free City didn't care. Morals, rules, order was all nonsense to them. As long as they saw profit, they were willing to go to any lengths to achieve it. That was the harsh creed passed down from the early days of the Abyss, deeply engraved in their bones. The upcoming Silent Day." He rubbed out the Mars with his finger. "I look forward to seeing what kind of expressions those superstar newcomers, who only follow the rules and live within order, will show." Chapter 100. I choose Su Buxian. He is the people's choice. Brother Su was also sucking on a lollipop at the moment. He frowned. "This lollipop tastes mediocre." The surrounding gamblers, one by one, excitedly came over. "I have strawberry flavor here. I got cola flavor. Mustard flavor." Su Chi raised an eyebrow. "The one with mustard flavor. Fork it over." "Yes, Brother Su." A gambler was collectively thrown out by the others. Su Chi lazily asked, "What's the situation now?" "The house is turning green already. This is the first time we've managed to get one over on them. As long as they dare to close the bets, we'll cause a riot. We have the numbers anyway. Brother Su, this is the coin I pay my respects with." Su Chi glanced at an abnormality with only half a head. "You keep it to see a doctor," he muttered inwardly. "Is the person behind this casino so patient?" It had been many hours, and with his assistance, the gamblers in the casino had been wildly stripping the house of its funds. Yet the other party hadn't shown themselves. Did they feel they hadn't lost enough? Or was the commotion not big enough? At that moment, Su Chi suddenly twitched his brows. Because he saw over 20 referees leaving the gambling tables, they looked coldly at Su Chi, then uniformly stood in front of a room. Finally, there was movement. A closed room door was gently pushed open by a heavy giant hand. A figure slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. It was a bald man with a stern face, tall in stature, one hand fitted with a cannon, the other with a sickle. His lower half had mechanical legs like a crab, stepping out from within. Many gamblers, having seemingly recognized this person, all had their faces darken and stepped back a few paces. Seeing this, Su Chi asked, "What? Does he have body odor?" A gambler wielding a giant axe said with a slightly heavy expression, "Brother Su, that's the casino's manager, a ruthless guy who devours men without spitting out their bones. And he's very cunning." Su Chi watched him. "Looks like he could be trouble." The word, "looks," is not very accurate. After accumulating a large amount of coins from Pure Land City, He possesses many strange tools. Of course, he may not withstand all that pollution by himself. He can only carry a few, but they are hard to defend against. The muscular fishman Along warned. Anyway, Brother Sue, be careful. The other gamblers also said. But don't worry. Fighting is not allowed inside the casino. He wouldn't dare break the rule. Even if there's a fight, I still believe in you, Brother Sue. Go for it, Brother Sue. Sue Chi. He turned around and saw that the gamblers had all stepped back several paces, blatantly clearing a path for him. Damn, are you serious about stepping back? At that moment, the prison uniform rabbit, on the other hand, didn't retreat. It stood next to Sue Chi. Sue Chi was moved. Brother Rabbit, good brother, when I become the emperor, I'll appoint you as the crown prince. And the opponent slowly came over, correctly speaking, shuffling over, towering over him and staring intently at Sue Chi sitting on the couch. Su Buxian, I gave you a chance. If you had left at any point until now, I would have pretended nothing happened. Letting these fools make some money, how does it affect me? They would have vomited it all back to me eventually. But you just had to be ungrateful. Sue Chi, with a cola-flavored lollipop in his mouth, shook his head. Actually, I was planning to just grab some loot and leave. It's your problem. The manager's icy gaze fixed on Sue Chi. Mine? Indeed. I should have killed you before you entered the casino. He really wanted to kill this guy immediately, but the biggest rule of the casino was not to fight outside the life and death stage, and since the other party wouldn't leave the casino to go outside, he had no chance. If this continued, he would be completely drained. And now there was only one way to stop this bastard's mad antics. Su Buxian, I want to gamble with you, he said gravely. Bet on what? Sue Chi said, interested. He couldn't see through the tricks this guy had used to win, but those cunning tricks were insubstantial against real strength. He pointed at the distant life and death stage and sneered. Just you and me. The life and death stage. The gamblers screamed, Brother Sue, don't go. He definitely has a trick up his sleeve. If you want to leave the casino safely, we can cover you. Even the prison uniform rabbit patted Sue Chi's shoulder, pointed at the life and death stage, then shook its head, signaling him not to be rash. Sui. Why were they all acting so noble? He felt somewhat ashamed, because if it weren't for the manager making this move, he was planning to empty everyone's wallets before leaving. Of course, the next moment a few foolish guys trembled as they raised their hands. Can we place bets? Scram. What are you betting at this time? Someone scolded, then turned to ask, what are the odds? The crowd stirred up again. Indeed, still a group of boisterous and crazy gamblers. All right, I agree. Sue Chi stood up from the couch. Let's make it quick. My stone has been vibrating non-stop, messaging me. What stone? The manager was taken aback and didn't understand, but he sneered, his eyes gleaming with murderous intent. Okay, then let it be quick. Before he became the manager, he had always been fighting, climbing up from the bottom, and it was for this reason that the superior valued him and made him the manager of this casino. Now he held more trump cards than before. Both headed towards the arena. The referee stood firm. The gamblers spectated. This life and death stage drew nearly 200 gamblers from the entire casino. The referee calmly announced, contestants ready. Victory is achieved by killing the opponent. Begin. At that moment, the manager chuckled strangely. His body muscles suddenly swelled, bursting out of his clothes, and his whole body was imbued with power. He even had guns, grenades, and other heavy weapons on him. This was his preparation. Sue Chi. Referee, are you seeing this? Not only did he munch, but he also got so many weapons ready. Over 20 referees turned their heads in unison to look at the other side. As it stands, there are no problems, it's fair. Sue Chi said, since that's the case, I won't play dumb either. Sue Chi then took out a speaker. The shoulder armor on his body materialized slightly, and his physical strength reached 830 plus 500 points, multiplied by 2. At that moment, it reached 2,700 points. Then he gently took out a card. In Nancy's previous show, the gambler had dropped 2 items. One was a token, the other was a card. The card flickered slightly. Name: Blood Sword card. Type: Equipment. Quality: Perfect. Function: consumes 80% of your physical strength. Attaches to the card. After hitting a target, it can unleash a sword-style secret technique kill with 5 times the power of the physical strength. Note: the cover of the card features a blood-colored sword imbued with an intensely powerful killing array. It will reveal its true power as you become stronger. But the prerequisite is that you must hit the target first. Additionally, you could try to find the other 6 cards to form a set. There might be a surprise. That gambler treasured this card as it was his strongest weapon, used in the final moments to kill the paper bride. When Su Qi commented during that moment, he was surprised that the gambler kept looking around in corners, which was actually to prepare for the timing of his move. After all, missing would make it a waste. However, it became simple for Su Qi. With a sinister chuckle, the manager roared and raised his firearm, pulling the trigger. The times have changed. Kid, die. Bullets poured out instantly. Su Qi activated the dark wind boots, leaping swiftly through the air. Then he raised his hand and activated the skill, Blinding. Function: can target an individual, causing their spiritual power to be shocked, and there is a chance to throw their senses into chaos. If the player's spiritual power is higher than the opponent's, judgment successful, opponent has fallen into sensory confusion. The manager's body trembled, his expression vacant, deaf and mute, even unable to speak. He could only ugh. The gamblers were stunned. What's wrong with him? We're short on time. Bear with it. I'll be quick. While moving swiftly, Su Qi pinched the card to activate it. The card suddenly gathered a large amount of energy, draining him of 80% of his physical strength instantly. The card flew straight and hit its mark. The next moment, centered on the manager's body, 3 blood swords materialized around him. They emitted a bizarre aura, displaying astonishing sharpness. He was pierced back and forth by the 3 sword apparitions. The manager felt intense pain, coming out of the blinding effect, and let out a terrible scream. His blood was quite thick. He tried to raise his hand to block while roaring in rage, but Su Qi, after drinking a physical potion, swung the thunderclap bone-shattering hammer and charged forward. Bang! Proved. Abnormalities indeed have much stronger bodies, and definitely have more physical strength than players. But as long as a fatal injury can be caused, even the big bosses have to show their health bar and can be killed, let alone a slightly stronger aberration. Bang! The gamblers watched as Su Qi swung the giant hammer. They stood dazed. The manager still had several unutilized pollutants from the Land of Strange Tales and was already beaten to vomiting blood, his body heavily sinking again and again. Damn it, he hasn't died yet? Such toughness. Su Qi even felt that the opponent had tools, and he didn't give him a chance to use them. His actions never stopped. Until after 10 strikes. Boom! A massive thunderbolt suddenly triggered, centered on the hammer, sending out a deafening sound, fiercely striking down on the manager who was barely alive. There is a 20% chance to produce a thunder strike effect during an attack. The power this time clearly exceeded Su Qi's expectations. Although the range was small, it was even stronger than Thunderbolt. Under the resounding thunder, the manager finally emitted a burnt smell. With a loud bang, he fell to the ground motionless. The people in the casino fell silent. Everything had happened very fast. Someone muttered, Is it over? Brother Su. He was the strong. Wait, my coins. Ah! Another gambler screamed. Noise exploded. They were ultimately crazed gamblers, and the death of one manager was just a moment of surprise. And Su Qi gently let out a breath, slowly wiping the blood off his face, looking towards the crowd. Everyone, quiet down. Listen to a few words from the victor. The gamblers paused briefly. Sure, we have to respect Brother Su. Su Qi watched the crowd. Smiling, said, "The old manager has been kicked out of the chat group." The thunderclap bone-shattering hammer, stained with broken flesh, dragged marks, slowly resonating in the casino. And now, don't you think the casino needs a new leader? At the same time, currently, on the streets of Pure Land City, Left Hand and others were running non-stop. "Have you contacted Su Buxin yet?" "He hasn't replied yet. What the hell is this bastard doing?" Left Hand couldn't help but yell. "He's been gone all night. No time to wait now." Qing Lang looked outside Pure Land City, where massive mosaics approached, assaulting Pure Land City like fog. Almost every land of strange tales emitted a bizarre aura, seemingly celebrating the arrival of this day. Silent Day has begun.